are ready to begin the actual administrative review now. So the first item I'd like to go over is this meeting is being recorded, something I need to notify you all of. It will be posted to the Hanford Site YouTube channel after the fact. We like to take attendance per the Federal Advisory Committee Act. If you would please follow suit to the many examples that have already in the Teams chat. Let us know who you are and who you're with so we can get those recorded correctly. We have a couple of meeting ground rules we like to go over. I'm going to change these a bit because we're not in a traditional room setting. So, the first is listen carefully. Second, honor the guidance of the chair. Third, be respectful and assume all participants have good intentions. The other one's typically related to sidebar conversations in the room or muting yourself if you have to take a phone call. We're all online. So in this case, I would just like to ask you to practice good microphone etiquette. If you're not addressing the board meeting, just please keep that muted when you're not using it so it doesn't pick up too much background noise. If I hear a lot of background noise and it's disruptive, I may have to mute you on my end. If you're on the phone, you can unmute yourself with *6. And with that, I think I'm ready to hand it over to Susan for opening statements.
Hold on, all of a sudden my system went haywire. Technology, it's really wonderful when it works and when it's, okay, that was interesting. Really interesting when it works, and it's kind of challenging when it decides it's got a mind of its own. But I am sure we will all get through it. Thank you, representatives from Albuquerque, for taking your time out of your busy day to meet with us and talk to us about transuranic waste and shipment. Thank you, everybody, for attending this meeting, despite all the craziness that we're going through right now with headquarters and all the administration changes. I'd like Josh to, we need to do introductions so that the Albuquerque, our guests can know who they're speaking to and what organizations our board members are representing. So let's do it differently this time, Josh. Let's start with the online. Or actually, sorry, HAB it. Since everybody's online, Josh, lead it off and let's start the introductions. And you're muted, Josh.
Yep, I'm practicing the microphone etiquette to the best of my ability. Would you like to keep that to the table or kind of include the public?
Let's just go fully around the room for the introductions.
Okay, so I will read them off as I see them.
We have some interesting people attending that are not normally attending.
Okay, I'll read them off as I see them in the Teams list, and I believe the starting point will be Mr. James Mason.
Yes, my name is James Mason. I'm with the Carlsbad Field Office Waste Isolation Pilot Plant located in Carlsbad, New Mexico. Although I myself work out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, I'm at, you'll see my title down there is ABQ RAPROC. That's the Radiologic Assistance Program Regional Operations Center. So my office is actually at an NNSA facility. I'm a federal team leader on our RAP team, so that's how they invited to give me an office here. I am the institutional affairs manager for NTP, which is National True Program, which is our transportation program. And I am do intergovernmental affairs along our transportation corridors, have all our public safety programs, external emergency management programs. I run our cooperative agreements with our stakeholders, and a few other hats, so including have our RAP team. So not only do I talk about radiologic response, I do radiologic response. So I guess in short, that's it. So I'll be talking about our programs today as they relate to the resumption of shipping out of Hanford.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Deborah Alexander. As I go down this list, you'll have the opportunity to open up your camera and microphone if you would like to introduce yourself. It's not required.
Sorry. Technological difficulties. Hi, I'm Deborah Alexander. I work for the Washington State Department of Ecology. I'm the project manager for waste management. The true out on the Hanford site is stored in my units, and the WIPP certification will take place in my units. Thank you.
All right. Next up, Ana Alvarez.
Good morning. My name is Ana Grisel Alvarez, and I am with the Department of Ecology. Good morning.
Good morning. Amber Waldrick.
Good morning. My name is Amber Waldrop. I'm based in Spokane, Washington. I represent Heart of America Northwest on the Hanford Advisory Board, which is a regional environmental watchdog group for Hanford. And I'm also a Spokane County Commissioner.
Annette Carey. Roberto Armijo.
Hi, this is Roberto Armijo with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. I'm here on behalf of Laura Bulow, and I'm one of the remedial project managers over at the Hanford site.
Laura Caulfield.
Hi, Laura Caulfield, Capmine support to DOE and the HAB.
Chandra.
Hi, Chandra Flores, HAB facilitation team.
Chris Sutton.
Chris Sutton. I represent local environmental interest. I'm the chair of the Tank Waste Committee, and I'll be one of the co-presenters for the 2028 work priorities advice to be discussed a little later on.
Chuck Torelli.
Chuck Torelli, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Kennewick.
Dawn Hancock.
I'm Don Hancock with Southwest Research and Information Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Donovan Porterfield.
Donovan Porterfield, public citizen.
Colleen Drinkard.
Hi, Colleen Drinkard with HMIS supporting DOE and HAB. Thanks.
Ed Parsons.
Good morning. I'm Ed Parsons. I'm serving the public at large. I'm a retired senior technical advisor for the Department of Energy, and I'm also the co-author for the IM presentation that Chris is going to give.
Dana Kelly.
Hello, I'm Dana Cowley. I'm with HMS Communications, and I'm here in case anyone has any public involvement questions. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Spencer Harris.
Yeah, Spencer Harris with Cadillac Regional Medical Center.
Brent Harvey.
Brent Harvey, Street Legal Industries, DOE HAB support.
Matt Hendrickson.
Matt Hendrickson, Oregon Department of Energy.
Eddie Holbrook.
Eddie Holbrook, Department of Ecology.
Kelsey Schenk.
Kelsey Shank with The Edge.
Kevin Danby.
Kevin Danby, representing Grant and Franklin counties.
Lee Lawrence.
Lee Lawrence, Washington State Patrol, and Lieutenant Mark Francis is also sitting in on this meeting with me.
Thank you. Jane LePage.
Jane LePage, Department of Health, Office of Radiation Protection. Also with us is Tom Rogers, Office of Radiation Protection. He's got some construction at his house that's going to be too noisy for him.
Appreciate it. John Martell. Matt Lynch.
I'm Matt Lynch, Nez Perce Tribe.
And Joshua, this is John Martell. Sorry, I was having user error issues. Anyway, John Martell, Associate Director with the Washington State Department of Health. And then also in the room here is Jill Wood. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Jill Wood, the Director of Office of Radiation Protection with Washington State Department of Health.
All right. Thank you. User errors are forgiven here. Matthew Campbell.
Matthew Campbell, Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla.
Dan McDonald.
Good morning, everyone. Dan McDonald with Ecology. I serve as the Tank Waste Disposal Project Manager in the Nuclear Waste Program.
Melanie Snyder.
Good morning. My name is Melanie Snyder. I'm the Nuclear Energy Policy Senior Program Manager at the Western Interstate Energy Board, which I will tell you all about here very shortly.
Look forward to it. Michelle Holt.
Michelle Holt, Executive Director for the Benton Franklin Council of Governments.
Ryan Miller.
Sorry, my same audio issues. I'm Ryan Miller. I'm the Communications Manager for Ecology's Nuclear Waste Program.
Mia Burke.
Good morning, Mia Burke, Vice Chair of the HAB and representing Hanford Challenge.
Jesus Mota.
Good morning, Jesus Mota, Columbia Basin College.
Megan Perkins.
Oh, no, technical issues for me as well. I'm so sorry. Good morning, Megan Perkins, Department of Health, Office of Radiation Protection.
Ben Pruitt.
Good morning, Ben Pruitt, he, him pronouns, communications and outreach for Washington Department of Ecology.
Richard Bloom.
Richard Bloom, I'm Mayor Pro Tem, City of West Richland.
Rob Davis.
Rob Davis, citizen of Pasco.
Rob Parmalee.
I think I'm unmuted now. Rob Parmalee on the board representing non-union, non-management employees.
Julia Schenk.
Yes, good morning. Julia Schenk, Director, Office of Packaging and Transportation at DOE EM Headquarters. I'm based out of Germantown, Maryland. Appreciate the invite today. I'm here to address any questions or discussion on headquarters transportation programs. And my office works closely with James and the team at Carlsbad. I believe I'm on the agenda for the April board meeting to give a full presentation on headquarters transportation, but more than happy to share any of that today that might be useful. Thanks.
Tom Cecilia.
Hey everybody, Tom Cecilia, Oregon Department of Energy. I'm the chair of the Cleanup and Risk Mitigation Committee and leading the issue manager team that's working on the advice that might come out of this meeting.
Simone Anter.
Good morning, Simone Anter, alternate for Columbia Riverkeeper, but today I'm participating as a member of the public.
Thank you. Susan Coleman.
Susan Coleman, Chair of the Hanford Advisory Board and representing the public at large.
Megan Tripp.
Hey everyone, Megan Tripp again. I'm here at the Hanford site, DDFO for the HAB.
Sarah Williams.
Good morning, Sarah Williams, Communications for Nuclear Waste Program Ecology.
And we have one guest by phone if you'd like an opportunity to introduce yourself.
This is Bob Quirk. I'm having trouble with Teams on my machine, so I'm joining by phone. I assume that's me you're talking to, Josh.
Yeah.
And I'm not a HAB member and member of the public.
And finally, my name is Josh Patnod. I provide facilitation support. And is there anybody I missed? All right. With that, I think we're ready to begin our first item. James, are you ready?
Yes. So I believe you folks have some slides, which I'll utilize here in just a moment. Real briefly, I brought board some folks with myself to discuss this project. It's a collaborative effort. So Julia Shank introduced herself. So we operate closely with HQ and the packaging and transportation program there. Brought Melanie Schneider with the Western Interstate Energy Board. They manage the cooperative agreement that I'll talk about here shortly that funds I believe it's 11 Western states. There was 9. And in assisting us with transportation programs through our partners that we work with across the country and supporting our complex, the sites throughout the country. And then Lee Lawrence with Washington State Police or Patrol to discuss, if it comes up, the Level 6 inspections program, which really is the core of our safety program for our trucks across the road, which I'll discuss further when I get to that point as well. So I think I kind of led off, kind of introduced myself earlier. So I have our public safety, external management programs, external affairs as it relates to our transportation program along our transportation corridors. And I also have I'm going to provide our technical assistance as the radiologic assistance program and our response to radiologic incidents, which is actually an NNSA program that I partake in and that our site partakes in. So the corridors that open, so we've already met with Hanford, just trying to nail down scheduling. The only official date I've had from Hanford at this point, and I understand it can and more likely will change, is September of 28. I understand that they are trying to move the timeline to the left a bit and see if we can get some movement earlier. There's a lot of moving parts to that in the characterization certification process and getting them ready for that process for shipping. The transportation, I do not consider that to be the long pole in the tent, so to speak. The Hanford corridor has been funded since 1998 through cooperative agreements. Even though we haven't shipped since 2013, we continued to fund that at 100%, even through the shutdown from the incident in 2014, where we weren't doing shipments, and through COVID, where shipments were also greatly reduced. We continued to fund that just under the reasoning it was best to keep that active and supported and the training and whatnot ongoing so that if shipments were to resume at some point, which we did not know when, it would be ready to go. So from a technical standpoint, yes, it's ready to go, but we want to work with local and state officials, ensure everybody's comfortable and where they need to be. So we'll be through this next 24 months, we'll be conducting some analysis, examining the corridor, making sure everybody's where they need to be, they're comfortable, we've communicated with who we need to communicate with. So we bring, my program brings a number of products to the states that they can use, and that we provide fully support and fund to help them prepare as the states see fit. So different states have different needs, different objectives, different audiences, different levels of preparedness. So we try to bring a suite that they can pick and choose from that will best meet their needs. The cooperative agreement we have with Washington State and Oregon and Idaho and all the others along the corridor through the Western Interstate Energy Board, who manages it as a pass-through. I work directly with Melanie frequently, but I also work with the states as needed. It's really a partnership, and work with them and let them know what they need from us and what support we can provide to best have them ready. So as I said, we've continued funding Washington, Oregon, and the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla, even though we haven't had any shipments. They've all continued to train and maintain a level of readiness that they're comfortable with. So we want to go in and re-examine, make sure there's no gaps. So we're actually starting that now. In a nutshell, we met at our most recent meeting in the fall, talking about this ramp up for them to start examining their programs internally to see where they might have some gaps, and to report back to us for our initial roadshow. Roadshow is something we bring to the area as kind of an outreach event, so we can educate and work with people. Our first roadshow, though, will be an executive level roadshow oriented towards Washington state government, Oregon state government, and Idaho state government, and the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla. And that is where we are going to come with our products, have a briefing, much like you're about to receive, let them know this is what we bring to the table. Their representatives, their state WIPP coordinators, can report to them what gaps they perceive, and we can start building a plan of outreach over the preceding 18 months. What type of outreach we need, training that's needed, things like that. So, and then we let the states tell us what they want, how we can build a better program to support their desires. So we'll get into the slideshow. We show some of the products. There's me. So one more. There we are. So the WIPP is founded on the Land Withdrawal Act, which is Public Law 102579. Inside that is Section 16, which is transportation, and then Section D states the support we'll provide to the states. So we fund our states, the 29 states and 6 tribes, through cooperative agreements. And with that, we have a WIPP coordinator in each entity that we work through, and they are a reach back I like it at an operations level. They can talk to me. I talk to them frequently. I'll give you an example. James Hall, who's the fire chief at the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla. We speak frequently. We discuss budget, but we also discuss operations, training needs, readiness, shipping campaigns. I've already gone up to meet with them on the upcoming opening of Hanford, for us, a resumption of shipping. It's not really an opening. Resume shipping, and to check and see that we're meeting the needs of the Umatilla. And I'll be meeting with them again and frequently, and hopefully when we have our roadshow or executive level roadshow, they'll be able to help us determine where we go forward regarding the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla and their readiness. Part of the things we're looking at, does Washington State want this to be a higher state level affair in Olympia? We will do that. They need to tell us where to be. Or would they like it limited state officials there in Richland? I don't know. Same for Oregon. Are we going to go to Salem, or are we just going to maybe meet in Pendleton? So we can be, right there in the heart of the actual transportation corridor. So they'll come to us with that information, and we'll help design a roadshow around that so we can reach the right people and get the right information to start planning essentially 2027, which is when we will bring a lot of the products you're about to see to bear. Let's see, next slide, please. So these are the active open corridors across the country. These are all funded, and we work routinely with all the states shown to ensure their readiness and capabilities for radiologic response along the transportation corridors. So next slide, please. So here's the broad. So through our cooperative agreements, we bring we fund a WIPP coordinator. So that would be the personnel. We provide materials, support, and information to that person so they have reach back into the WIPP transportation program. With my WIPP coordinators, I consider many of them personal friends at this point. We share personal phones, business phones. If I get a call from Melanie at 2 a.m. on Sunday, I am picking up. I'm assuming there's an issue that needs to be addressed at that time, and vice versa. If I've got an issue, I can call her, and I know she'll pick up. I know we have 911 and everything, but I have a lot more confidence in my WIPP coordinators. When I've got something going on, I can reach out to them, and within minutes, we are ramping up the system up and down the chain, making sure everything's addressed as it needs to be. Of course, 911 is being called as well. So we provide inspections. It's a major part of our safety program. We rely heavily on our state cooperators and inspectors throughout the states. Washington State's lead is actually online with us today, Lee. And we practice the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance Level 6 inspections program. That's a zero defect inspections program on our trucks. If there is any defect on a truck, and the first inspection is at the point of origin, so it would be at Hanford. They find any defect. It could be a cracked headlight lens. The truck is out of service until that is corrected. I think this is a major part of what's led to our safety program of over 15 million miles, over 14,000 shipments with no incidents in our 25 years at this point. Very proud of that. Level 6 is the highest level of inspection and the hardest to pass. And we pass it, I think, with only a 0.0027 defect rate, which is very low. So we provide training for radiologic response to all our cooperators and partners. Equipment. So we provide equipment for that scope of practice that we train them for. We conduct exercises so we can evaluate and practice what we've learned. And then we also have a robust public outreach and education program. We provide support and materials, again, to the states to help us reach the people we need to reach. And we count on venues such as this for your input also. And the state will also hear these things as certain communities we may need to reach locally there and in that area. So that's the sort of information we're looking for. And we can then work with the state of Washington to design an outreach or education or communication that would meet those needs. So next slide, please. So our stakeholder outreach, and this would be considered that. We have WIPP briefings, state, local elected officials. I think I would categorize the HAB under that. Not necessarily elected, but appointed by elected officials. You're representing your community. So this has very valuable outreach to us. Emergency management and public safety. That's really getting into my realm. I'm a career public safety person. I retired from state of Mexico public safety and came into this program to help Department of Energy reach out better to public safety programs and civic organizations. Because the HAB could also be a civic organization. Trade and conference shows, and you can see on the slide there the typical groups we reach. And then we have road shows specifically, which is what we're going to be putting together in August. That one's going to be directed towards state government and leadership, executive leadership. We also do them with public safety, and then we also do the general public if there's a need. Next slide, please. So training, we have a number of training products. We have the modular emergency response radiologic transportation training. That is specific to responding to transportation events. It is not necessarily we-oriented when I give it, or my program gives it towards our trucks, but it's applicable to general over-the-road transportation. Could even apply to other radiologic incidents. It could involve trains, planes. It could be at a home. The safety and processes are very similar in all of them. So it really gives our responders a good tool in their tool bag. We hope and we have a high level of confidence it won't ever be a WIPP incident, but people we've trained to respond to other events that had radiologic materials, whether it be in someone's home or a FedEx truck or more often than not construction vehicles and such might have radiologic sources, and they use that training to keep their public safety officials safe and do their job. Again, CBSA Level 6 inspection certification, we train on for that with CBSA trainers, which is Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance trainers. We do radiologic training for hospital personnel. Patient care and transport is one of my biggest concerns. I want to be able to see that we can transport safely and quickly, particularly patients that may have trauma. We want to get them to definitive care as quickly as possible, but we also do not want to put ambulances and hospitals at risk. If we dirty up a hospital with a contaminated patient, that's a very big concern. So it's important that we train hospitals how to receive contaminated patients and treat them and keep their facility clean and operable and safe. Medical examiner and coroners. It might be self-explanatory. Next slide. Transcom. So all our cooperators have the ability to track real-time via satellite our shipments. It's just part of our, they're able to track it when they're in their jurisdiction, 2 hours before, 2 hours after. So for Washington State, their monitors would be given access about the time they're getting their inspections while the trucks are still sitting at Hanford. And then they would be able to track them essentially probably till they get down an hour or so below the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla or Pendleton area. And then they would lose visibility because they would no longer require it. But they can real-time track our shipments, see where they're at. This is also handy if there is an incident. It could be just a flat tire or something. When I'm reaching back to dispatch in Washington State, they can look on their monitor, see exactly where we are. They also can receive warnings and any alarms that might go off on the trucks as well. Public information officer. So we help train public information officers essentially to discuss not only the WIPP program, but radiation safety, radiological safety and response. And then our last big product we bring is WIPP transportation exercises. These are full-scale exercises, take a year to put together. I plan on having one sometime in 27, probably the end of summer, maybe early fall. And all the training that we'll conduct up through then, the responders will be able to come and participate in this exercise. I asked James Hall at the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla if he'd be willing to host, and they would be. But I would like to actually get the event a little closer to the river there, so it's right on, so I can get maximum Washington State and Oregon participation. As I said, these take a year to put together. It's a big event. So I'd like to maximize participation between Oregon and Washington. And I think somewhere there right near the state line would be a fantastic place So I'll be reaching out more probably with Oregon to see if they can host the spot, the location, but my official host of record and the response organization would be Umatilla. So, which would be great. So it's great if I can get the tribes to participate, especially on an event such as this. Let's see, next slide. So we also provide technical assistance. We have the Radiologic Assistance Program, RAP, which is an NNSA program. Throughout the complex, different DOE sites, predominantly NNSA sites, have host RAP teams. The WIPP hosts a RAP team. I'm the program manager and federal team leader for our team, so I also do radiologic response if needed. I specialize in transportation events because that's really my background, but it's a great program. Of course, if anything were to happen up in Washington, Hanford has their own team and they would be responding, and I would be responding under the team below that. I'm also the program manager and federal team leader for the Incident Accident Response Team, which is specific to DOE's WIPP transportation program. And I would be providing technical assistance to the locals up in that area on the response. And if it was a significant response, I'd be getting up there as quickly as possible, probably be dragging Melanie and other people along with all the support I could in the world to assist. More than likely, it would just be minor technical assistance. We get roadways back open, we ensure the scene's secure, and there's no release. So next slide, I think I'm at the end. Yeah, so there's all my information. Of course, you'll be able to get that through the Hanford Advisory Board. They'll have it on record, and I welcome calls, emails, anybody that wants to talk about the programs and any way I can improve them. I welcome that discussion. So in a nutshell, those are the programs I'll be will be discussing with Washington State and Oregon, Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla, to see if there's any of that we can bring as we further ensure readiness along the, I call it the Hanford Corridor. So basically, all the way till you reach into Idaho there, where the interstate picks up. I think it's Interstate 15 out of Twin Falls towards Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
Yeah. And so I call that the Hanford Corridor. That is where we will be conducting the roadshow. It's from that point there all the way up to Hanford or back or backwards, one way or the other. And we hope to meet with everybody we can and develop this plan of engagement over the following 12 to 18 months following that meeting in August. The big part is the training that has been ongoing, so we should be in pretty good shape there. I'm sure we'll have a few gaps that we want to look at and fill in, things like that. But relatively confident of our work here. My main point of interest is talking with Washington and Oregon, Umatilla, Idaho, to see what sort of public outreach is needed. Different states want different types of outreach. Some will want like town hall style public engagements. Some will say, let's focus on public safety and elected officials. So there's differing types of engagement. So we let the states tell us what they want and what they need, and that's what we'll do. So, I'd like to turn over a big part of this project is going to be Washington and Melanie. I'll start with Melanie and their involvement in this project. As I said, this is a collaboration literally from Washington, D.C., all the way down to local elected officials, public safety, and everything in between. So I'd like to go to Melanie now with the WIPP.
All right. Thank you, James. And thank you for pulling up my slides. So again, my name is Melanie Snyder. I work for the Western Interstate Energy Board, also known as WIPP. James loves to throw around that 2 a.m. call reference. I have not yet received one, but I just know it's coming in the future at some point. All right, so I am the Nuclear Energy Policy Senior Program Manager at WIPP. I'm going to start with just a really brief history because most people on the call, I assume, are not familiar with our group. So I'm just going to run through that really quickly and then kind of talk about what we currently do. So next slide, please. All right, so WIPP's beginning is back in 1970, and this is when Congress passes the Western Interstate Nuclear Compact, which actually created the Western Interstate Nuclear Board. So WIPP used to be an entity called WINBY, and it was created because the Western states saw a need or envisaged a need to have a way to speak on a regional basis with each other about nuclear topics. And this was an era kind of similar to now when it was anticipated that nuclear energy was going to become this very dominant generating power. That didn't actually pan out, particularly in the West. Not a lot of nuclear power reactors were ended up being built in the West, but the Western states had this kind of mechanism for talking to each other about various topics. So when nuclear didn't take off in the West in quite the way that they anticipated, Western Interstate Nuclear Board became the Western Interstate Energy Board. So they took this existing structure and they expanded its purview to talk about a variety of energy topics, which only are tangentially related to nuclear, such as energy markets, reliability, transmission. And that's a huge part of what WIPP does now, is help the states talk to each other about those kind of issues. However, WIPP still had this nuclear core. So in one of the topics that the representatives identified very, very early on was that of nuclear waste. That was one of the issues that they wanted to be able to collaborate on. I don't need to tell the people on this call what the legacy of nuclear waste is in the West. It's no surprise that the states saw a benefit to being able to collaborate with each other about this topic. All right, so turning back to the timeline, in 1979, Congress authorizes the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant, or WIPP, in Carlsbad. And then in 1982, Congress passes the Nuclear Waste Policy Act. So both of these different activities raise the prospect of a large-scale transportation campaign, right? So once you identify a site, such as WIPP, that's going to start receiving nuclear waste, obviously you have to move it. And the Nuclear Waste Policy Act was Congress's attempt to deal with the topic of spent nuclear fuel. So they created a process for trying to find a site to dispose of spent nuclear fuel. So both of those acts raised the prospect of having these large-scale transportation campaigns, and it being obviously one is in New Mexico. Later on in 1987, the Yucca Mountain was identified as the site for spent nuclear fuel. So both of those disposal sites were located in the West. So the West saw the prospect of a lot of nuclear waste transportation coming through their states. So they wanted to be able to talk to each other about this and to work with the feds on what these transportation programs were going to look like. So in 1983, 1984, the Western states worked through WIPP to create the High-Level Radioactive Waste Committee. And this is a group of Western state representatives who got together to talk about spent nuclear fuel transportation. And that group still exists today in WIPP. We have a meeting in a couple of weeks, so still having those conversations about spent nuclear fuel transportation. And in the similar era, the Western Governors Association was created in 1984. We can skip that next one and go to the next slide. All right, so in 1989, activities related to WIPP are ongoing. It doesn't get opened in quite the timeline that everyone hopes for, because these things always seem to take longer than everyone anticipates. But in 1989, the Western Governors Association begins to work with the Department of Energy on transportation procedures related to transuranic waste to WIPP. Okay, so we have WIPP working on spent nuclear fuel transportation through the High-Level Radioactive Waste Committee, and then we have WGA working on transuranic waste transportation that will end up going to WIPP. Very, very similar people working on these issues, but they just ended up under different agencies, different regional groups. So in 1995, DOE and the Western governors basically put a pin on those discussions they were having about transuranic waste transportation. The West has this WIPP program implementation guide that sets forth the procedures for how that true waste will be transported. Things like inspections, bad weather protocols, emergency response equipment, all these different very specific components, a lot of what kind of James was talking about, the different pieces of the program, make sure that transportation is conducted safely. And then the Western governors and DOE signed a memorandum of agreement to agreeing to follow those procedures that they work together to put together. And that group of Western state representatives under WGA's auspices eventually turned into the WIPP Transportation Technical Advisory Group, what we call the WIPP tag. And again, it's very similar group of people to those who are on the High-Level Radioactive Waste Committee. So no need to talk about the High-Level Radioactive Waste Committee policy papers, but one of the recommendations is that for spent nuclear fuel shipments, you should follow the WIPP program implementation guide as much as possible. So build on that work that was done by the Western states and by DOE in the past for spent nuclear fuel shipments. So when I came onto WIPP in 2017, we had these two parallel groups working under two very parallel regional organizations. We shared office space, but for some reason we just continued to have two different groups managing them. So in 2020, we went to WGA and pitched them on the idea of bringing the WIPP tag under looking at transuranic waste transportation under WIPP so that we could have some efficiencies because, again, the groups were looking at such similar topics. And WGA agreed. They could see the benefits in that. So in 2021, WIPP assumed management of the WIPP tag. So that kind of brings us to the current times. We are about at the end of our current cooperative agreement. So what do we do now? So WIPP works very closely with the DOE Carlsbad Field Office. We are a liaison with the federal government and with the states on these topics. So we also manage the cooperative agreement that James was mentioning before, which provides funds to 9 states. It's 9, James. Of the corridor states in the West that receive transuranic waste or who are pass-throughs for transuranic waste. So we help them manage their program. We pass through those funds so they can do the things that they need to do, the training, the inspections, all those very important activities. And we provide a place for them to have meetings. So just like the Hanford Advisory Board, we provide support for them to come together, talk about any issues they may be having, talk about what's working, what's not working, a conduit for them to talk to the federal government about what's going on, and to build relationships, because relationships are the basis for effective communication, and the program works better when you have effective communication. So rather than trying to build those relationships when a problem arises, they already know who they can call. They know they have James's phone number. They know their fellow state coordinators, and that's really beneficial, certainly to get ahead of any problems that may be bubbling up in the program, but also if something does happen, they know exactly who to call. And that's a really valuable thing to have in a transportation program. So in a nutshell, we are the regional group that provides some structure, provides a space for the states to come together to talk about the transportation program. And the other thing we provide is continuity. So WIPP has been engaged in this space, like I've highlighted, for a long time. So we have some institutional knowledge. The states can have a lot of turnover. These programs don't tend to have as much turnover as some state positions, but they do have new people coming in, and having a regional group who has the knowledge about what came before, kind of keeps the documents, can be really beneficial so that not as much institutional knowledge is lost about how the program was created and how things operate. So I do want to turn things over to the Washington State Patrol now. They're kind of started at the Fed level and we went to the regional level. Now we're going to go to the state level and just talk a little bit about what their preparatory activities have been for the resumption of true waste shipments. So I'm going to turn things over to Lee now. And this is my contact information, obviously.
All right, thanks, Melody. I'm just going to discuss. I don't have any slides or anything like that, so feel free to take notes if you want to, or if you guys want, I can put my contact information in the chat. So if you guys have any specific questions you want to direct towards me, you guys can get a hold of me. So currently, WSP has 17 certified level 6 inspectors. 9 of those 17 inspectors are assigned to, we call them the district. It's the area that contains the Hanford site. We're trying to evaluate our need for additional inspectors leading up to the resumption of these WIPP shipments. And in 2026, we're not going to hold a level 6 certification class. There's about a 40-hour class that to get certified to conduct these inspections, you have to attend, and then you have to pass a test at the conclusion of that class. And it's you have to pass that test with 90% success rate. We're going to reevaluate our needs for 2027 to hold that certification class. Now, these certifications are inspectors get recertified every 2 years, and that recertification is an 8-hour class that they attend. And historically, we've had a recertification instructor locally in Washington State. That position has become vacated recently, and we're working towards getting a recertification instructor certified for Washington State. And to do that, they have to attend a CVSA training course and pass that class with, I believe, is a 90% success rate as well. And these tests are timed, and to be a recertification instructor, they shorten up the time. So they like cut it in half, I believe. So WSP, we've continued to conduct level 6 inspections as they're needed throughout the year. In 2025, we conducted 31 level 6 inspections throughout the state. About 21 of those 31 inspections were conducted out at the Hanford site, specifically for shipments between the Hanford and the Permafix facility. And we'll continue to conduct CVSA level 6 inspections as they're needed throughout the year between Hanford and the Permafix facility. WSP also works with the Washington State Department of Health in conducting trainings, drills, exercises with local first responders. Like James mentioned earlier, we utilize Transcom tracking system for the WIPP shipments. When they leave the Hanford site, this Transcom system is monitored at the local WSP communication center within the district that contains Hanford. So that center is located in Yakima, Washington. That center is staffed 24 hours a day by WSP dispatchers and who have instant communication with the troopers and the commercial vehicle enforcement officers that will be working along the WIPP shipment route. They also have direct communication with the local communication center to be able to get a hold of any local agencies. So your local police agencies or sheriffs, your local first responders. That's pretty much it. Does anybody have any direct questions for me they just want to put out? Because I can try answering some if you want.
So
perfect.
All right, before we go to questions from our board members, we want to give the regulatory agencies, a chance to provide their perspectives. And as a note, at 9:10, we will be checking in on public comment. With that, who is on deck for ecology?
like to give Julia Shank a chance to speak too, if we could, out of HQ DC.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Julie.
Sure. Thanks, James. As I mentioned, I'll have a full presentation on headquarters transportation coming up in a few months. But I'll touch on what James mentioned as far as emergency response and preparedness. Out of headquarters transportation office, we have the Transportation Emergency Preparedness Program, or TEP. And we work very closely with James and the Carlsbad team, their instructors, on course materials, trainings, exercises. So that's a link that we make and we'll continue to support as needed. Sometimes we supplement with our instructors and do joint training courses. And again, thanks for the opportunity to be here and happy to address anything that touches our programs at headquarters. Thanks, James, and thanks to the board.
Thank you. Sorry, Eddie, you're good to go now, I think.
All right. Well, I appreciate Melanie and James and Lee all offering some information regarding the transportation program related to transuranic mixed waste or transuranic waste and what's to occur in the coming years here. For Ecology's perspective, at this point in time, we are currently focused on the standing up of the recertification program to ensure that those capabilities are available in the year of 2026. We are also in contact with applicable state agencies, such as Washington State Patrol and Department of Health, regarding getting answers back to James for the August of 2026 discussion that we'll have here in Washington State and the subsequent discussions that will be happening in Oregon and Idaho as well. I've had the privilege to attend many of the committee meetings related to the Western Interstate Energy Board, and I really appreciate the context that's been provided there and the information and the things that I've learned attending those meetings, and specifically the transportation advisory group related to transuranic waste shipments. So we do look forward to engaging with James and others on the roadshow that will be kicking off here later on this year into 2027, and identifying the level of leadership that will be involved in that, as well as the asks that Washington State will have when it comes to training, equipment, resources that are necessary to resume these shipments in 2028. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any perspective from EPA?
There we go. Not much to chime in here. I appreciate the presentation. It was very, very informative, and thank you again for the presentation.
With that, I think we're ready to move on to questions from our board members. If you would like to ask something, you can jump into queue by raising your hands in Teams or making a comment in the chat. Who would like to lead us off? All right, Rob, go ahead.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Great presentations, a lot of good detail. I've got two areas to ask. One is, I think, is there a security review being done for this transportation from the standpoint, we've got all these radio signals and trackers and transponders on all these trucks. They make them very accurate targets for terrorists and or mischievous people that want to affect something. And so I didn't hear any of that within these discussions. And maybe Jim could talk a little bit about it, the big picture, but I would think that that we should, or at least acknowledge that transporting these around the country is a risk. And when we start looking at multiple shipments a week, it looks to be a very ripe target. The second was that all this is with regards to the transuranic waste, but we plan on shipping also in the future high-level waste glass logs to a repository somewhere likely in Nevada. But and we're also going to be shipping a lot of low activity waste grouted cylinders, either grouted or liquid, over to Utah or Texas. So would this program evolve itself within the low-level waste picture and only deal with transuranic waste? And those are the two areas that I would like to hear something about.
James, do you want to take the first one and I'll take the second?
Yeah, and I can touch on both real quick. So security. So the program, since its inception, is always under constant review, examination. The security issues are under analysis. We work closely with FBI, with NNSA, ensuring we have secure comms, tracking, things of that nature. As far as target-wise, there's always that potential, but as I said, we constantly analyze. We're looking ways to improve, encrypt everything we can do to maintain a secure system. We're in contact with all our agencies. They know when we're going through. That's why we give them visibility, so they know where we're at, and we can work through, as I said, the FBI and fusion centers in each of the state's fusion centers. So we're always evaluating for potential risks and whatnot. It's not really in my bailiwick. So I know Savannah River site has worked on us on some security systems along with Oak Ridge National Labs. So we're constantly trying to improve our visibility also of our own shipments, and that what we share with our partners in this endeavor. As for the high level and low level waste, no, this program does not apply to them in so much as the outreach, and we're going to discuss true waste, but the training, equipment, and personnel that we help our partners with, if we have a high level of confidence in the security and safety of our shipments. Our packaging, whatnot, we have a very high level of confidence. But radiological shipments are radiological shipments. So we're training firefighters, law enforcement, hospitals, EMS, emergency management to respond and deal with the radiologic transportation incident. If it's a low-level shipment, 6 years from now, it's those same responders responding, and there's no true waste. Oh, it's a true waste incident. We have to send different firefighters. So they're trained, and so if there's a contribution, it's there. I'm hoping that just like with the Level 6 program, we are providing a valued product to our partners along the transportation corridor. This is something they have in their back pocket. It could be a construction truck that has the ground penetrating radar, which uses radiologic sources and whatnot. It helps them with that. With that response, or it could be someone who's hoarded radiologic sources in their garage. We've helped on that. So we like to help and know that. And this is Julia Shake's. We teach we're part of TEP, and we teach that program. That's a national level program. I should have given credit for that. But it's we have our instructors. Hers are out there as well. They have a contractor out of Idaho, TRG, that's providing training. This is a nationwide program we bring to our partners, and I know they use it. I've talked to them. They've responded to situations, and they used our training, and I'm glad we brought that to them. They used our equipment that we provided. We don't care. That's I'm hoping with one of those products that have value to our partners that we can bring to them and help them. I'm proud of that. Having come from public safety, from law enforcement, fire, myself, a career there in New Mexico, I know the value of that training equipment so that we can get our firefighters and law enforcement officers in and out of these situations safely, protect the public, protect property, protect the environment. It's important that we can do so. And I'm proud of the fact that we can help these communities do that. So, Melanie, did you have some follow-up on the high level and low activity?
Yeah, so the High Level Radioactive Waste Committee that I mentioned earlier has been engaged on all things Hanford, realizing that high level radioactive waste of some kind will be moving at some point from Hanford to disposal sites. So as I mentioned, it's the policy of the West that any high level waste or spent nuclear fuel that's moved follow the procedures of the True Waste Transportation Program as much as possible, realizing that the rail environment regulatorily and in other ways is quite different than the road environment. So not all of those procedures necessarily have a one-to-one match, but certainly want to be keeping that program to the highest level, right? So if it's any level of reassurance, the states are aware of the fact that high level waste from Hanford will be moving at some point. And as James has pointed out, the readiness level that has been created through transuranic waste shipments neatly kind of covers the same kind of materials being moved. On the topic of low level waste, that again, regulatorily is a different animal. The Western states would be, I think, receptive to the idea of treating that waste not necessarily as low level on a regulatory basis for the purposes of transportation, but that would have to be looked at depending on what the material was. I mean, if it's moving as low specific activity, from a regulatory perspective, you are kind of bound in some ways by how you can move that and, what you can advocate for from a safety perspective. But certainly everyone is aware, at least in my group, of those possible transportation campaigns, and we track that very closely.
Thank you. I had some experience early in my career moving spent fuel to the Nevada test site from Florida. So I realized the difficulties and the teamwork and the involvement. But I do think, though, that like in any organization where security is important, it's and it's ever changing. People are hacking into any kind of signal they can get. So consider the fact that you are very vulnerable in what we're doing. And if we would have an accident or something, I mean, it's great that we're perfect so far, but an accident would, just the thought of radioactive material being released would affect communities and states and would be a real mess. So I really think security is very important. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rob.
Okay.
Thank
you, Rob. Unfortunately, we're right up against our public comment period, Rob, so I have to cut you off. Don't want to be mean, but
No, I was finished. I thought it was a great presentation, and I really appreciate their preparedness.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Josh, do we have anybody for public comment?
We did not receive any notifications ahead of time, so we'll check right now. If anyone would like to offer public comment, please raise your hand in addition to those that already have them up, or enter a comment into chat and we will give you the floor. Don Hancock, is there anybody else? Once, twice. All right, Don, you have the floor. Your microphone's muted.
Okay, let's try this again. I think I'm unmuted. My machine says so. I'm Don Hancock with Southwest Research and Information Center, which is a 55-year-old nonprofit organization based in Albuquerque. We've been involved in looking at WIPP for since its inception more than 50 years ago. I just want to make 2 points to be sure that people are aware of it. One is section 2.3.3.8 of New Mexico's WIPP permit excludes waste from 177 tanks at Hanford, as well as high-level waste tanks at Savannah Riverside in Idaho. So the reason that that prohibition is in the New Mexico permit is because DOE at various times in the past has proposed renaming some of the tank waste at Hanford as true waste. So in theory, it could come to WIPP. So I just want people to be aware of, as you talk about what Hanford waste would be shipped, what additional Hanford waste, obviously there's been waste from Hanford coming to WIPP in the past, but that people be aware of that prohibition in the New Mexico permit. So it would not just be up to DOE to decide what waste is true at Hanford, but the state of New Mexico could go through a public permit modification process. The second issue that, again, I know at least some people on the Hanford Advisory Board are aware of from previous comments you've made, the public in New Mexico has been, and state officials, local officials in New Mexico have been very concerned about the slow movement of Los Alamos transuranic waste from Los Alamos to WIPP. And so the public is very concerned about that. I think state officials are concerned about that. So again, in terms of Hanford waste is Cold War legacy waste. The true waste is Cold War legacy waste. So it is certainly allowed to come to WIPP. But insofar as there are going to be limitations going forward in the future from the state about the amounts of waste that can come to WIPP and the priority for Los Alamos waste, again, I want to be sure that people are aware that there's strong public sentiment in New Mexico about that, and it is currently reflected to some extent in both the state permit and state officials' activities. So thank you for understanding those concerns that we have in New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any other public comments before we resume board questions? Okay, I think next up in queue we have Tom and then Chris. Go ahead, Tom.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentations. I'm really looking forward to seeing the Roadshow kicking off in the next couple months, next year. Couple questions though. One is the program implementation guide, the PIG, publicly available? And if so, can we get that put in the chat or the link? Yeah, so.
Yes.
Okay. That
Keep
might
in
be
mind
helpful. Sorry,
yeah, sorry. It's a 2017 version. We're in the midst of updating it right now, so we hope to have a new version out in the next year or so. But it is still largely what we follow. It's not going to receive any massive substantive changes. But yes, I will drop that right now.
Yeah, because I know there's a group that's working on potential advice for the transportation of the low activity waste, and that might be a good guide for some input. I know it doesn't apply to rail though, so that might be tricky. The question I have, I guess, is for the Carlsbad Field Office, and it sounds like a lot of the outreach, or all the outreach on the corridor is your realm. What interaction with the local Hanford Field Office do you have? We are an advisory board for the tri-party agencies, so trying to figure out how we can fill our mission to have the local office support the mission as best we can.
Yeah, my outreach, or my contacts thus far have been through the National True Program at Hanford from a logistical standpoint. So, because we're trying to nail down these dates, timelines, and how the scheduling will look for us moving forward. So essentially trying to reverse engineer. So looking at a delivery date of 2028, we're looking at all the steps that need to be completed, from certification process to getting them up and ready, meeting the multitude of requirements, whether it be EPA, local regulatory, whatever, and then backwards with the work I need to do and our partners need to do in preparedness for the actual shipments, and kind of working our way back. So, and then I put a 6-month buffer in there because I know they're trying to move it forward. So, or move it up a bit to maybe start earlier. So, and I'm not sure that Don Hancock touched on shipments. So we still have Hanford and Lannell shipments too. So I think part of this equation is they're getting at the end of their, it's coming. It's taking time, but they're getting lower and lower on their shipments. And at some point, those shipments will move. Those will be the ones that Hanford will be getting. So, because our safety basis is for reception of 17 shipments a week. So right now, we take everything Lannell can send our way, which is typically around 6 shipments a week, 5 or 6. And then next we take Idaho. Idaho typically can get us about 9 or 10. And then the others are just small quantity sites around the country. So one day Lannell will be a no quantity or a low quantity site. Idaho will even be low quantity. They'll have a shipment a year or something. That's what we get out of Sandia right now is, well, one shipment every other year. That's called a low quantity site. So it's just real small cleanup of stuff they find or whatnot. As you really get down to the nitty gritty. So as those shipments free up from those 2 sites, which are our priority, that will free up shipments. And those are the ones that Hanford will get. So when we start shipping out of Hanford, it's not going to be like no shipments today, tomorrow, 12 shipments. That is not going to happen. It's going to be a walk, crawl, run. So as we go through this process, we will, as we get closer to shipments, we'll do a couple virtual shipments using Transcom, just to work with everybody, get them used to tracking shipments, how it works, that process. Then we'll do a couple empties. So there'll be just empty shipments. So we can just run a couple that way, test everybody's readiness, make sure they're comfortable. Used to shipments going through, once again, test the process. And then we'll do a shipment. And we might do some onesies for a month, a shipment a week. And then eventually we'll get to 2 shipments a week. So as I said, it'll be a crawl, walk, run. It could take a couple of years before we get up to 10, as I said, because we're going to be waiting for those shipments to free up from other current project priorities. So this will all align, and that's part of it. That'll be part of the natural growing process too. Hanford's not going to be able to process 10 shipments a week for us day one. So they'll slowly build up, and that's part of Washington State's and EPA. That's part of all the regulatory process too. Everybody's watching this. It's managed, and as we grow and we can make sure we're handling new volumes. People are ready. The system can handle it. Meanwhile, other shipments, hopefully, and they should be, because we're still stuck on that 17 shipments a week. Other shipments will be freeing up as the inventories will start drastically reducing out of those as we close out those projects. So that's really the goal, and that's part of the timing in all this. So there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of players. I think as Don expressed, the state of New Mexico is involved. Our intermediary states in between are also involved from a transportation perspective. So, but there's a lot to take care of, and it's incumbent upon us to make sure, with that level of readiness and everybody can meet these commitments and do it safely, do it timely, and keep everybody involved that needs to be involved.
And as far as who you outreach to, that's you said you leaned on the states and local governments for providing that list of who needs to be talked to. You don't ask the Hanford field office for that list, or is it a combination?
Yeah, I've talked with them, and so as we get closer, in fact, I think they recommended the Hanford Advisory Board as being one of their first. Please talk to these folks, and so here we are. And if they want me to come up and talk to the city of Richland, if they want me to bring a truck and come talk to the city of Richland, if they want me to go to one of the elementary schools and talk with children, we'll do that. So we really look to our partners to let us know how we can be successful and help them be successful. So we have a great array of products, and I'm really at their disposal, to make this happen and to do what we got to do to make programs successful and safe.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tom, I apologize. I tried to drop the attachment in the chat, but I didn't see an option to do so. We don't have the pig hosted on our website right now because we are in the midst of updating it. So I emailed it to Josh and Megan to have it be passed along to the rest of the group.
Thank you so much.
And I will take that on. All right, Chris, you have the final question before we reach our scheduled break.
Thank you. My question has to do with transportation corridors. Supposing that today there were no transportation corridor from Hanford to WIPP, what is the process that would be employed to decide upon a transportation corridor? How would it be approved? Who would approve it? Is there a single organization that would have the authority to approve it, or would this be a consensual agreement among all entities involved?
So all of our corridors have been negotiated, and they were negotiated back in the 1990s. So we have an open negotiated corridor now from Hanford through to the WIPP. The Hanford portion of it, as I said, that corridor stops there at I-15 in Idaho. And that has been funded through the cooperative agreements to develop response capabilities, engagement, I guess those are the two main things. So engagement being communications, training, intergovernmental affairs, and then we fund equipment and training for public safety response organizations. So it is already a designated, negotiated between the state of Oregon and state of Washington and state of Idaho. It's a negotiated open, and by accepting the WIPP funds, it's continued to be open because the funds are for the purpose of maintaining response capabilities and everything else along those corridors. So, but having said that, we're not just going to jump in and start making shipments again. So we want to work with each of our stakeholders. It's been a while since we've had load shipments go through that way. So we want to make sure everybody's involved. We're kind of going with everything but the negotiation portion. We're going to go back through that corridor and involve everybody we can, and make sure we're in a good spot and everybody's ready for us to resume the conduct of operations again. As I said, it'll be a slow crawl back, but we've transported before, and we maintain those corridors, and so it's time to start again and start that environmental cleanup of the Hanford site, at least the portion that's true waste, and is slated for WIPP, so we can start getting that out of there and work that mission.
However, if those corridors were not already in place, it would fall to the Department of Transportation to designate the corridors. So they have authority through the Hazardous Materials Transportation Act to designate hazmat corridors. So that includes radioactive materials. And they have a process where they analyze the safety of a route to determine whether it's appropriate for it to be a hazmat corridor. And the transportation guide, the Western states got a promise from the Department of Energy saying, okay, well, we will use those DOT hazmat corridors unless the state wants us to use a different corridor, in which case there's two options. You can negotiate a different route with DOE, the state and DOE can negotiate a different route, or the state can conduct its own analysis of a corridor, kind of following the DOT process, and use that to designate an alternate corridor for transuranic waste shipments.
So if we were trying to establish a corridor for the first time, DOT would be, at least initially, the lead organization to do that.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you look at our map, if you and the slides will be available to you, you go back to our map, you'll see a vast preponderance of our corridors are interstates. So,
Thank you.
yep. Good question. Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you, Melanie. She's our attorney, you could tell, and she's awesome.
And a comment from Eddie?
Not a comment, just maybe a clarification from Melanie. When you mentioned Department of Transportation, you were talking about U.S. Department of Transportation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yep.
All right. With that, I think we're into our scheduled break. Thank you, James, Melanie, Julie, and Lee, all for sharing your morning with us.
Appreciate it.
Chance to talk to y'all. Thank you.
And
Thank
Susan, we're about 5 minutes over. Would you like to extend our break by another 5? Come back at 9:40?
Yes, definitely.
All right.
It's been a long morning already with a lot of good information. So let's take a break and let it all absorb.
All right. Thank you again, everyone. See you all at 9:40. All right. We've reached 9:40. Got like a short break. All right. So next up, we're going to be discussing the fiscal year 28 cleanup priorities advice. We had 2 IM team leads for that, Chris and Ed. Who would like to lead this discussion? Whoever unmutes first might get it.
I'll lead the discussion, at least initially, and Ed can jump in and save me when I misstate things. I want to take a few minutes and give a little bit of preamble as to this particular work priority advice. In previous years, say the last 5 years, our work priority advice has relied heavily upon DOE's 5-year plan that generally has come out in the October timeframe. And that 5-year plan represents the work that DOE plans for 5 years into the future. And typically the work priority advice, we've looked at that and we said, this is what our constituent organizations believe is the most important to be done. And the work priority advice then has emphasized those particular work items. This year is a little bit different for several reasons. First, there was no 5-year plan issued by DOE this past October for a variety of reasons. But second, earlier this year, or last year in 2025, DOE released its cost, schedule, and scope plan that outlined what the cost and schedule was to clean up the site. And that report raised a lot of concern among the HAB and HAB members. The cost to clean up the site, the length of time to clean up the site. We have concerns that the funding won't be available to meet milestones, that it's going to take too long. And this advice kind of reflects those concerns. So it's not just advice for a particular year, it's advice for a year, but ongoing into the future, and advice actually that could be started right now. This advice is different for another reason too. Rather than pointing out discrete scopes of work which our constituent organizations feel are the most important to be done, this advice also incorporates more policy-oriented advice that's not a particular work scope. So what you'll see in the actual advice topic are bullets that are policy-oriented and actionable, and bullets that are more typical work-specific work-related topics. But they all relate to a given theme of how can we accelerate schedule and reduce cost. And that's the general theme of this work priority advice. You all should have a copy of it. Josh put it out as a attachment to the email for the meeting announcement today. So I hope everybody has had a chance to look at it. We do need to approve it. The board needs to approve it consensually today in order to go forward to be submitted to DOE. This particular advice has had an awful lot of wordsmithing at the IM team level. It's had wordsmithing and input at the committee of the whole level, and it's had wordsmithing and input from the executive steering committee level. So I'm hoping we don't have to do any wordsmithing here, particularly for the background. And if anybody has concerns or questions they'd like to raise about the advice topics, about the advice bullets, that's what I think is the most important part for discussion here at the board meeting. Please raise your hand and ask, and either Ed or myself or any other member of the IM team will try and answer those questions. If there are none, then Susan, perhaps we could go ahead with approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Josh, are you able to pull it up on your screen?
Yeah, I think you took it away from me. So before we start jumping into approval,
People were asking, I didn't know if you were having issues.
that's interesting. I didn't even see any questions, but things are a little strange on Teams for me today. So before we get into
where did the advice go?
I will attempt to put it up again. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to review this. What I did want to check on first is to make sure nobody has any questions about it. Before we jump into consensus and approval, I want to make sure everybody understands it, being the first and potentially most important step in consensus.
Josh, are you going to put it up on the screen?
There's an issue with content sharing. Something went wrong. Please try again later. So Megan, maybe you can do it after all. So, anyways, are there any questions on this while I try to troubleshoot this?
So does anybody have any questions, concerns, thoughts, issues, problems with this first page?
I'm not receiving the first page. I'm getting a whole bunch of just dots. Is anybody else having problems, or is it just me?
It's just you. No.
Just you. It's just me. Okay. Wow. Something's wrong. Could it be?
Yeah, there seems to be a few issues with Teams all around. I did also put the link in chat if anyone needs to review it at their own pace.
Yeah, I'd like to add one other thing here too. In previous advices, the HAB was also evinced concern not about the cost and schedule, about overruns, missing milestones, and how can we accelerate it. But this is the first advice that's wholly directed toward those concerns.
Okay, back to the same question. All right, Matt asked to have it larger. Thank you. Okay. Does anybody have any issues with the background? Going, gone. Move to the advice, please. Thank you. Does anybody have any issues, concerns, thoughts, anything with the advice points, with the advice verbiage and points. Does anybody have any thoughts? Sorry, Ed, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're saying the same thing.
I was just going to say, does anybody have any thoughts, concerns, issues? Want to say anything about the advice? Or are we ready to move to consensus decision? I'm hearing absolute silence.
Yeah, and as a note, I did make a slip up earlier, but this is being a formal full board meeting. It is intended to be limited to appointed HAB members who are contributing towards consensus here.
Correct.
Tom.
I'm waiting to hear from Matt what his comment was.
Perfect.
All right, so bullet 2, was there a discussion on comment times? Oh, so should there be any mention of sufficient time for the public to comment as well as sufficient information? Just a thought.
What does everyone think? Matthew.
So I will say, Tom, that I think we went over this before. This is just a generic one, and we have the whole subcommittee regarding public input regarding what's going on here. But we're just re-emphasizing the point that we want to hear those. Because we got to define major decisions and those kind of things. So that's my opinion of what we were trying to emphasize.
Agreed. Yeah, and I'll just say again, if there's anyone who's in the packet who is not an appointed member, feel free to reach out to me and I will raise the question on your behalf.
Mm-hmm. All right, Matthew, did you have a comment on this topic?
Oh, yeah. I guess I was just under the impression that the wordsmithing for this was done and we were going to move on to supporting or not supporting the advice.
That is the expectation, Matthew, unless there's something that you really need wordsmithed.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I will never stop anybody from adding an improvement if they feel very strongly about it. Okay. Are we good to go? Can everybody live with it?
The entirety of the advice? And Mia.
I just want to make sure that we're adding the language on here somewhere about the seats that aren't able to weigh in on consensus on this one. And I just want to make sure that that makes it onto this advice.
So I'll throw in a note. I worked with Josh and we talked about it yesterday. I think we can totally put a little disclaimer at the bottom if you want of what seats were part of it. I don't think we should say what parts weren't because we haven't done that in the past and we haven't had a City of Richland member, but we're still passing advice. So if you guys are comfortable with that, then we were just going to write up based on our current member seats, just who took part in this consensus.
Okay, what do you think, Richard?
Yeah, I was going to jump in. That queued up a thought in my mind. How many members? Well, how many organizations that are members are not represented because we didn't get people approved?
I believe our count is 23 total seats represented right now.
Right, but how many were authorized? I mean, I guess my question, we don't have any comment in here relative to the lack of approving the packet from last year.
That's the comment that I just made though too, is we have a little disclaimer that we can throw in there of what seats were represented when it came to approving this advice. I think we should do a positive accountability though, not a negative accountability, because we haven't done that in the past and there's always been empty seats that haven't been represented and we haven't mentioned them before.
Well, no,
Well,
I'm not concerned.
And this
about it.
applies to every advice that's going to be presented for the remainder of this year.
Right. So
It's an ongoing issue that we have.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Though,
the key piece is we still have to have quorum.
Right.
So we still have to have quorum, and we can't approve it if we don't have quorum, and that's the key decider.
Well, you remember we
Oh.
started this
Hold on,
advice. What's that?
So we want to maintain Q and that slip up I mentioned.
Oh,
that was
okay.
that you're not
Okay, I didn't see
officially
anybody ahead of
represented.
me.
We have
sorry.
Tom in Q. Go ahead, Tom.
So we have, in fact, had a signing statement that mentioned what seats were not appointed because of packet lapses back in when we had the Yakima meeting. So I think when a seat has put forth a member and it is of no fault of their own that they're not appointed, we should note that those people are not don't have a voice in this advice as far as the consensus. So if a seat doesn't put forth a member, then yeah, they sort of are waiving that right, but it should reflect the accurate representation of what consensus means and who didn't have a chance to consent.
So I don't think it was the Yakima meeting, so I don't see anything on
Yeah, I don't
there.
think so.
What I remember is there being a statement in a work plan that we
That's what it was. Yeah,
put
it was a
forth
work
1
plan.
year, which said certain seats didn't have the opportunity to contribute to that. Go ahead, Ed.
You're muted, Ed.
Still muted. Ed, you may have to repeat that because your microphone has been muted.
There we go. Okay, I think the question I'm hearing right now is, do we do the positive aspect that these are the people that did it? Or do we want to take Tom's suggestion and list everybody who didn't get to participate because of administrative issues? I tend to go with the positive approach, saying this who participated. Go with that. That's my vote.
Why not both? We're supposed to be accurately representing what consensus is for this advice. It's in the OGR.
Sue, Chairman,
I'm going to go back. Yeah, I'm going to go back to saying we have to have a quorum to have it to make a consensus decision. We have a quorum.
This is all. It's going to be chair's discretion, I bet, because that's what this comes down to. But I have heartburn not having the the folks who were in the packet and were denied. There's like, I think 3 or 4 seats that we're talking about here, because everyone else has there's other people with alternates and stuff, so.
But we're talking about advice. It has to be, you have to have a quorum. We have a quorum. That's the decision making. Yes, I agree that we have a concern over seats that we do not have approved and filled at this point in time, but we still have 23 seats that are filled. And even if seats, as you said, don't participate, they made that choice. But as long as we have a quorum, that's the deciding factor. I mean, it's a case of, if I'm gonna pick on one, the building trades don't want to show up for the meeting,
right,
they don't count. And to say that, well, they didn't participate there's no value added.
Non-participation has
at
been
this
a
point.
problem in the HAB since I've been on it.
I'm not talking about willful non-participation. I'm talking about involuntary non-participation. So I think I'd like to see the statement that Josh and Megan have proposed, and I might consider adding an additional signing statement from Oregon.
Okay, Megan,
Are
do
we
you
gonna
have
put
that?
those statements on every advice for the rest of this year?
Basically, that's what.
Yeah.
So I can read it off and then I can get it sent over and put in the chat if you want to see it. I will say we need to be careful though, because even looking at the agenda that meeting invite that Josh sent out, he listed for everybody. Let me see if I can actually share it with you guys. I know you guys have seen it too, but. Well, I'll just look at it really quick. So he listed like all of the seats and then who was there. The issue that I see with this is that, not issue, well, whatever we want to call it. Like Mia is listed under Hanford Challenge. Hanford Challenge is not a seat per the MOU, right? And so we can't specifically name out individual seats that aren't named. Overall, we do have representation from local governments and stuff like that, because we don't have City of Richland, we still have City of West Richland. So I had to just quick 2 sentences. It says, this advice was developed and approved by consensus of the Hanford Advisory Board members present and participating at the time of deliberation, representing the following membership categories: local governments, labor, environmental and public interest organizations, tribes, state agencies, community, and public at large interests. And then people can look at the meeting minutes for this meeting to see who was here.
We change that to appointed instead of present and active, or because would that make it a little clearer?
I mean, this is up to you guys. Personally, I don't know that you need to do something like this because you already have consensus, but if it's what's going to make you all comfortable, then you guys need to do what makes you comfortable.
This is one of the first times we've tried to pass advice without membership packets having gone through. So I wanted to make sure that we're honoring that and noting that it's not normal.
Not normal, but you guys also have never had everyone show up to all the full board meetings. You haven't always had the 38 seats full. So, and you haven't been disclaiming that before.
When people don't show up, that's their choice. When they're not appointed, it's not their choice. And that's the difference here. And
So you're wanting essentially to figure out who is appointed but didn't show up versus who is not appointed and wanted to show up.
We don't know if people who aren't appointed are ever going to be appointed. This non-appointing thing could last quite a while.
Right. So I just wanted to, it doesn't need to list out the specific seats. I feel like there should be something that says there are members who were not approved for membership in time to pass this advice, and they are not reflected in quorum or something along those lines. But we can wordsmith it after the fact. I don't want to kill the advice, but I want to add something to make sure that it's consistent.
I think if you put a caveat in, you're weakening whatever advice that caveat is appended to.
No,
I'm going to go with a hard no with that, adding verbiage other than what we've heard after the fact. In my mind, that's a reapproval for everybody. This is what's up for vote. Let's take a vote and go from there. If we want to add the language that has just been expressed, we can do that now. But adding language after the fact is a hard no with me.
I'm not adding language. What I'm going to do is have a signing statement. So there's a consent with a signing statement, which is a precedent. And
I have a question. Sue, when you send the advice to the tri-party agencies, or when the advice goes out to everybody on the CC list below it, do you have a letter that goes with it, or do you just say here's the advice, or how does that work? Because if there's a letter that goes with it, that additional language could go in the letter. If there's not a letter, then we're back to the discussion now.
There's not a letter. The advice is just the letter.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have heartburn with doing approving the advice and then crafting a signing statement. The signing statement, if it's going to go with the advice, has to be approved by the board.
Sue, I just threw something else in the chat. I changed one word to appointed instead of present. I don't know if that'll go along more of what Tom was kind of mentioning. But this is a way to mention that it's the current people that are appointed in here for this advice, without specifically having to dig into who was appointed and not here and who's not appointed and wanted to be. If that will work for you guys, then that's something you can just put at the end of the statement or advice or beginning, wherever you feel best.
Yeah, it's closer. And the signing statement is not a consensus product. It's attached to one specific seat that it's sort of a minority report. But yeah, I think that's closer. Let me think on it, and by the end of the day, I'm not going to block consensus right now, but yeah.
Okay. So, go ahead, Ed.
Well, I'm still confused here, Tom. Are you saying that you're going to provide a statement that attaches to the advice only from your
Yeah,
group?
it would be clear. It would be clear as to what seats where it would be associated with that signing statement, and not that it's not that a board statement. It's that it's sort of yeah.
No, it's going to be a board statement. If it's attached to the advice, it is going to be a board statement, and it has to be approved by the board.
Let me pull up the OGR.
So
yeah, it's been done before.
It has nothing to do with the advice.
Yeah, I did want to confirm.
If you're making this a statement attached to the advice, it is part of the advice. If you're saying you want to send a separate letter, that's a totally different situation.
Mhm.
If you're saying you want to send something from Odo, that's a totally different situation. But if this is part of the advice, it is going to be part of the advice, and it will be treated as part of the advice. Yes, Mia.
My thought is this: this is not an issue specific to this advice. it's a general issue that's going to attend to every advice that's written for the rest of this year. And I think it needs another forum to discuss how best to address this. You know, we have another advice topic for approval following this one, and then nothing for a while. So I think there's a little bit of time that we have to say, how do we want to address this issue going forward? But I don't think today, since it's just been brought up, is the right forum to do that. I think we need to say, we've approved this advice. Amber has one that's coming up. We'll take a look at that and then say, okay, going forward, now how do we address this issue? And I think we need to do it going forward because we don't know that packets are going to be approved in time for the, by October. This could drag on for a while. And so this issue could impact other advices above and beyond those plans just for this year. So I think we need to treat it a little bit separately than an issue unique to this advice and to Amber's advice today. That's just my thought.
Okay, Chuck Torelli, you haven't said anything, but you've got something in chat.
He's also a member of the public at the moment.
At this point, since we've let Rob talk, I'm going to just I want to hear from a variety of voices. And then behind that, I want to hear from Mia.
So I appreciate what Tom's sentiment is, but I think it is a separate topic. And there may be a separate advice on the appointment process itself. But as far as this right now, I would have reservations, even as one who's kind of excluded from the system, about trying to highlight, well, your failure to make the appointments has impacted our ability to do work. I don't see that. The work has been done, quorum has been met, and yes, there is an impact, but that becomes a separate issue. It would be just like the funding was cut all of a sudden. We went from 3 billion to 1 billion, and we would have that as a separate topic. So we went right with each advice. By the way, you underfunded us this year. So I think Tom really does have a valid point, but I think it would be a separate issue altogether. And you should never tell a politician, gee, you can talk.
Chuck, you're not the usual politician. You and Amber are my favorite politicians.
Thank you.
Okay, Mia, you had your hand up.
So we just recently had a signing statement on the 324 building advice from Yakima Nation. I can read it. It's on the advice. It's right after Susan's signature. And it says, Yakima Nation offered the following signing statement, and then : Yakima Nation concurs with advice from HAB as written, however, continues to work with the tri-parties on waste classification. So that was passed this past year. And so I think if Tom feels that Oregon needs to put a signing statement on, there is precedent for that.
As long as he's putting it on as Odo feels this way.
That's what I'm saying.
This is an
I'm not
Odo
saying this is a
concern.
board statement, no.
But it's part of the board consensus advice. It just is saying Odo believes this way.
Correct. And I have to draft that something apparently. So I'll work on that and get it to you.
Okay, Rob.
Let me get back on the microphone. A lot of this stuff that we're talking about is all due to this this current climate we are. The question I guess would have is that possibly it'd be a separate advice, and we should combine the other sites as well, because it's like this slow walking of our appointments, and they're not putting priorities to it and not fulfilling what the intent of the tri-party agreement is, to have representatives okay, there to discuss. They're inhibiting us, and the advice that we ought to have a joint advice on the big picture. Why? Why is it taking so long? It's unreasonable to have an entire year canceled. Unreasonable. We should handle this separately in a separate advice and make sure that our congressmen and the folks get it, because it's embarrassing. Anyway, all I wanted to say is that remember, Chris and I started working on this advice that we are working on now clear back in September, and so I was a member then. So I don't know. It's just such a mess right now, and I'm so frustrated with it. By the way, I had a great time with Ecology at the outdoor fair there on Saturday. We took a lot of exposure to the HAB, and that was
Rob,
good.
Rob, to interrupt you, can we?
Yeah.
What do you mean by other organizations? Combine it with other organizations. I don't know what that means.
Other boards.
Oh, okay.
Of the boards that we have, because they're happening to them as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, it's not just us.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, so I want to hear from Matthew and Amber. Matthew or Amber?
Matthew Campbell or Matthew with DOE?
Sorry, Matthew Campbell, you.
Oh.
Board
Okay.
members, for
Okay.
your thoughts.
I'm fine with Oregon adding on that statement. It doesn't, it's appended to as a note from Oregon, and it's not part of the advice we're voting on. My overall thought is that, I mean, DOE's made a decision to make it so that voices are not heard, and we should advocate for those voices to be heard.
Thank you. Amber?
So sorry, I'm trying to listen in on another meeting at the same time here. I'm double tasking today. Are you looking for feedback on how we move forward with the advice, or do we need to have a statement about those people who aren't able to participate? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, what your thoughts are.
I mean, how many people are even going to be eligible to vote on this? Do we even have a number?
Yeah, we have
23
a quorum.
seats.
So are you looking for feedback on like adding a note to kind of articulate that we didn't, half the board wasn't able to actually vote on this advice and we think that's wrong? Is that what you're looking for? Some sort of statement that we're going to add?
Well, we actually have quorum. So if we have consensus amongst the quorum participants, then we can pass this advice.
I definitely support the advice, and I guess I'm just lucky that my packet was in this year, right? That I wasn't in the opposite year packet. I'm disappointed that half the board can't participate, but I do support the advice. I think we had a good discussion at it, and we allowed other people to participate in the discussion where we reviewed the advice and they were able to give input during that whole process. So I feel good about that. But yes, I support the advice.
Okay.
Kevin Danby. Kevin. Okay, he must have stepped away.
I'm here.
Okay.
Forgive me. Forgive me. I just have a little mouse issue here. So in any event, I definitely support the advice And coming from private industry, I believe in efficiency, and I don't like to see the process get dragged down. I do support Tom if he wants to put in a statement from Odo, but beyond that, I think we need to move on.
Okay. Let's see, who else? Richard, you had your hand up, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that I'm not opposed to the advice as it is. I brought up the issue. I'm a little upset. I'm not one of your favorite politicians, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard. You are. You're West Richland.
And don't confuse West Richland being here that Richland's not here. That East Richland, I do not represent East Richland.
Okay. Michelle.
I don't have any specific concerns.
Okay, thank you. Rob Parmalee.
No concerns.
Spencer Harris.
Yeah, I'm supportive of the advice. Hopefully we can push it forward. As far as the language, I mean, I'm not hearing anyone dissent against it, so I'm not sure what value the language actually brings in, adding the additional statement.
Is there anybody that I missed? Somebody's got their not muted.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take care of that. If there's a guest on the phone, if you need to unmute yourself, the buttons are *6. So as to people in here, or at least they were last check, we're missing a comment from Jesus. Maybe we lost him. Okay, Ed?
I move for a formal vote for acceptance.
And then some people, so we've been kind of going through the seats, seeing if everyone can live with it and support it, I think.
Yep.
Actually, we haven't heard from you, Susan.
Oh, I'm good. I'm just, okay. Tom typed in his statement into chat.
All right. And with that statement, do you consent to the advice, Tom?
Yes, with the edit that Bob Quirk made, because that's a good one.
All right. And then I think the last one we haven't checked on, or last ones we haven't checked on are Mia and Chris.
Oh, sorry. I've been listening to Chris.
I don't
consent to
agree
the
with,
advice.
I don't agree with adding it. Frankly, I think it's dumb, but I'm not going to oppose it because I want the advice to go forward. But that statement needs to be added. If we add it here, it needs to be added to every single other advice for the remainder of this fiscal year.
Yeah, the seats will have a prerogative to add signing statements if desired. And Mia.
I consent to the advice going forward.
All right. And what are your thoughts, Megan?
Hey, I just wanted to hop on really quick. I'm not trying to be a pain here, and I'm sure no one is. I just want to make sure. There's been a couple comments that I've heard, so I've been working in the background on things, but people saying that half the board is not here. I just want you guys to realize we just looked at numbers. Mariana's confirming, but I think out of the 38 seats in the MOU, there are only 6 that are not represented. If we're talking City of Richland, they're not putting anyone in, so those ones wouldn't count. We have public at large, we have all of those. So I just want to be careful with what wording we're using here because it sounds really aggressive when we say half the board is not represented, and that's just not true. So I just wanted to make that clear as we go forward. I'll get those exact seats so that you guys have them. I know it sounds bigger sometimes, but And it seems bigger because we missed a whole packet, but we have 23 seats currently in this meeting that have either a primary or an alternate. So like we all talked about, we can't force people to come. I just want you to realize we have a lot more representation than you guys are thinking we do.
And I definitely appreciate that. I'm not trying to say anything scary, and I didn't say there was half the board missing. There are seats that are missing, so that's why I'm trying.
No, I know you didn't.
Trying to find the right line.
Yeah, a couple other people had mentioned on the meeting, and it doesn't matter who said it. I just want to make sure that we're getting the correct information out there because it sounds worse than it is. And I honestly don't think we're very far off from where we've been in meetings a year ago when we did have a full packet and people just didn't show up. So I want you to just keep all of that in mind as we go forward.
Yeah, and a general reminder, please remember that every seat's concerns are valid, and just please assume that everyone is coming to this table with good intentions. So, with that, let's see if I can wrap up since we sort of spiraled around. All the seats present have provided their consensus to this advice, meaning they live with it and then can support it. Are we in agreement there? All right, and for a signing statement, Tom has provided that, so that will be at the footer of the advice. Are we still including the disclaimer that Megan contributed? Or is that being replaced with the signing statement?
I believe that's been replaced by the signing statement.
So with that, I believe this advice has been passed with no content edits, but anticipated signing statements. Congratulations, everyone. All right. And with that, what do you think about an early break?
Let's take an early break. This was quite a conversation. I need
Okay.
more iced tea.
All right, returning at 10:35 or later.
10:35. Because it's 10:26.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you again at 10:35.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, welcome back. We have reached 10:35. As a note, I agreed to send out the WIPP pig earlier. My goal for that was to send out a meeting follow-up email, and I wanted to include anything else that also came up in this meeting, so I figured I'd tackle that at lunchtime. So our next item is the draft community outreach partnering / broadening public awareness / something else advice. Got a much better title. At last we went through it. Amber, are you up for sharing what this is and what our plans for it are?
Yes, I'm here. Are we on to the co-committee advice?
We are.
Okay. Do you want to bring it up, Josh? And I'll just give a little overview.
Yep.
So back in the fall, we, the tri-party agencies requested that we provide some advice on ways to improve engagement with different communities and do improve meetings, different types of communication strategies. And so when we set up I guess it was probably last summer that we had this conversation. And then when the board was putting together its work plan for the year, we identified this as a top priority for the Community Outreach and Engagement Committee to put together some advice for the agencies on ways to think about community meetings, social media, use of the website. We kind of combined a couple different goals into this advice. And in the end, the HAB has many past pieces of advice on public involvement and engagement. So instead of rehashing a lot of what the HAB has already said by consensus in the past, we decided to do kind of an overview of the goals of public involvement and kind of getting to rebuilding trust and engagement, and how do you do that? So we focused in on just a couple key values and goals, and then we refer in this advice to past HAB advice so the agencies can review that. And then what we did was we kind of created, some of you might have filled out the survey. Thank you if you did. The Community Outreach and Engagement Committee, many of the members were surveyed, and then we sent that out to the full board for anyone who wanted to participate in giving their feedback on ways to make meetings better, where to hold meetings, how often. I mean, we got a lot of great feedback. And instead of trying to put that into a 10-page advice, we are including that here as like a record or a sounding board of individual members. And I want to thank Tom, Cecilia. Tom and I spent hours and hours and hours consolidating and grouping the comments and suggestions from all of you who filled out the survey. And that is grouped by topic area at the back of this advice. So let me get into the background and executive summary. This is just a background at the front, is just the background piece. We kind of explained that the tri-parties wanted us to provide this. We talk about how strong public involvement is crucial to the future cleanup of Hanford and to keeping people engaged, to keeping funding going, and to build trust in the process of the cleanup. So that's kind of an overview. This kind of came out of some concerns that we saw coming out of the tri-party agency public involvement survey, where there's a lot of people who are not highly engaged or feel like they know what's going on. And I think coming out of the pandemic, we have a lot of folks who fell off, weren't able to participate in person. There's been a lot of change in the agencies and leadership and in approach over the last 5 years. So this is trying to kind of bring us back to what would be recommended strategies that work to really engage people from all walks of life. So in the advice, I'm just opening up my screen here. We actually used the titles or the different areas of how you engage. The tri-parties provided that at the beginning, and we grouped our feedback into those categories, like public meetings, social media, education, outreach. So we talk about that, and then we really emphasize that public engagement has to be an ongoing process. It's not a one and done. You're constantly trying to reach out, constantly trying to reach back to people so that people feel like their voice matters. If they feel like their voice doesn't matter, they're not going to engage. So we really emphasize that in the beginning here. And then we found a quote from one of our past pieces of advice that really encompassed the art of public involvement. So you see a quote there, and we didn't feel like we had to re-say that. We just pulled it out of 2010 advice. And then we're advising the TP agencies to regularly gather input. So we should be doing this, you know, on a regular basis from the HAB, from community stakeholders, from our tribal nations. And so this isn't, you know, it's an ongoing iterative process. And we basically, this is the language we came up with. The board encourages the agencies to consider and incorporate the ideas articulated and referenced in the sounding board. And this is all of the comments that people gave individually to the survey. We incorporate these ideas and we reference them as part of the agency's ongoing public involvement practices. We highlight that these are not consensus ideas. All the ideas that were generated by individual members of the HAB, they're not, you know, we're not all saying we agree with all of them, but they are referenced here for the tri-party agencies to consider. And we talked a lot in our committee meetings about, you know, how we would reference this sounding board. So we came up with these words here. Contained within the sounding board are board members and interested members of the public's ideas for engaging community members to increase public trust. So we're not saying that everybody is in agreement with every single idea, but here is a list of ideas. The board advises the TPA agencies to leverage the unique cross-section of stakeholders on this board and tribal nations to review and discuss these strategies. So what's on the next page there, Josh? Then we reference, as I said, about, do we just reference one there or do we have more than one, Josh?
So that is kind of a discussion in itself. Last time when this went to the CUE, there was a lot of discussion around the sounding board document and how that would be included as part of this advice. On top of that, there's also the attachment of the list of past advice on public involvement.
Okay.
However, this was discussed further in the ESC, and I think the path forward was changed slightly. Susan, can you give us a tour of where we ended up?
Susan had an idea.
My idea was just for the attachment, as opposed to all of the previous references. What do we do? Sorry, I must have spaced.
Sorry. So in the CUE meeting, there's a lot of concern about representing how the sounding board was represented, because a lot of people didn't want to be clear that it was separate from a consensus document if we weren't editing it. And at that point in time, it was agreed to be an attachment. When it's discussed in the ESC, we changed the approach to an appendix.
Yeah, it's fine. It's still attached to the advice. It's still part of the advice, and it's still whether you call it an appendix or an attachment, it's still attached to the document. I mean, fundamentally, those two words mean the same thing. It's attached to the document. It's a part of the document.
And yeah, I think the previous discussion was linking it, having like a link to something on the website, and we were like, no, that link could go away. It could disappear in the future. So this is an attachment, but we clearly state that it is not. It is a compilation of feedback from a variety of board members, or what do we say? There's board members or interested parties, right? Yeah. Who were participating in the meeting.
But yeah,
that was one of the reasons, just so everybody knows the background, after we came out of the co-meeting last month, we decided for it to be an attachment, we really should have the survey be sent out to everyone. So everyone would at least have an opportunity to give any feedback or advice you might have from your experiences, you know, doing outreach and education. And so that's why we sent out the link to the survey to the full board, so that then I think we felt more comfortable attaching it as a sounding board if every board member or, you know, had a chance to weigh in. So that's where we ended up.
So yeah,
So it looks like I thought we had agreed, Tom and I had, I thought Tom and I had given you a title in our conversations over the last couple weeks, but I'm not sure if that ended up in there, Josh.
We have a title for the advice itself, building trust through public involvement. That was sort of just a note for me to label the appendix appropriately, should we have any further discussion on the content of the sounding board. Okay.
I mean, we could call it HAB Public Involvement Sounding Board or something like that. I mean, or if results of, or I don't know how you want to phrase it. Maybe Tom Cecilia has an idea since he put a lot of time into it.
Or recommendations for a successful meeting.
But it's more than that though. So
yeah,
for successfully engaging.
For successful public engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just HAB engagement survey results.
Sorry, what was your recommendation, Tom?
Just engagement survey results.
Yeah.
Public engagement, I think.
Sure.
Okay. We have a title for the appendix.
That's fine with me.
Okay. So with all that, does everyone understand what this is and our approach to presenting it? Or are there any questions? Chris. Chris and then Mia.
About a year ago, Susan sent out an email to various HAB members pointing out that the Government Accounting Office had just released a report on how federal agencies should successfully engage the public. And that report listed 8 best practices which every federal agency should try and perform when engaging the public or a wide variety of stakeholders. And I think some of those 8 practices are identical to what the bullets are here. So I think that would be a pretty useful reference to have as an additional reference. And it might be worth putting in a sentence or so up front, acknowledging that and as well as some of the other things. Because that went out to, the GAO report goes out to a wide variety of people, including government agencies. But I think that would be a pretty useful thing to include. It's what goes right along with the whole message that this advice is putting forth. And I can forward that email to whoever I'll forward it to Josh and Josh can in turn forward it to whoever's interested, or can put the link in chat.
Okay. So how would you suggest incorporating that into the text?
Well, just a second. Here's what it says. To help federal agencies facilitate meaningful engagement on environmental cleanup issues, GAO identified 8 leading practices for how federal agencies should engage with stakeholders and governments. The leading practices can apply to engagements with a wide range of stakeholders and governments, including community and national interest group, members of the public, advisory board, state and local governments, tribal nations, and other federal agencies. And then it lists the eight leading practices. Demonstrate agency commitment. Ensure agency resources and capacity. Clearly define and communicate goals and expectations. Systematically and iteratively identify and include relevant stakeholders and governments. Minimize barriers to meaningful participation. Design engagement to fit the goals and context. Provide valid scientific information that addresses stakeholders and government concerns and follow through on commitments to engagement. And then there's 75 pages that follow. But it's just a reference that seems to go right along with the theme of this advice. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay. So would you like a minute to craft some potential words to insert that?
I'm sorry, could I ask a question, Josh,
Please do.
about Chris? I really like that you found this, Chris. So can you remind me where is this coming from again, though? Is there a way we can just reference it? Or the organization? Sorry, I wasn't following where
just
you
a
got
second.
this.
Let's see if I can put the link in chat. I just forwarded the email from Susan with the link in it to Josh. And I'll see if I can put the link in chat.
Would you like me to link it?
Okay. The links in chat says https://www.gao.gov/products, whatever. So that should work to give people the link. And what the link is it's a summary, and then in there you can download the full report or something like that.
My only concern is just that we haven't had a chance to review it. I mean, it sounds like it's very consistent. I'm not disagreeing, Chris. Did this just come out recently, or it was a couple of years ago?
Susan sent the letter in September 15th, 2024. And I just stumbled on it by happenstance, actually, while you were going through the advice.
Okay, so
and they just leave out this one, Amber, so you're more comfortable, have time and include it in your next by the public involvement.
So I don't know, did anyone else hear that clearly?
I think she was saying maybe consider it in the next piece of advice. Yeah, that's my only concern, Chris, is that we spent a lot of time on this, and I don't think we'll all have time to fully read it and consider it today. Could we maybe reference it when we're talking, in a future piece of advice, maybe around how to engage the community around the tank waste cleanup process? Maybe we could incorporate into that, but that's just a thought for just being fair to the process that we already went through.
Like a lot of GAO stuff, it's pretty generic. And you don't have to bring it in here. I just wanted to point it out that this exists. And it'd be nice to, as a piece of ammunition, to support some piece of advice on public engagement down the road or here.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that people might not be comfortable with supporting it without having had a chance to review the content, which makes consensus difficult. I think this one's going to be a no-go, but we have an action to look at it again in the future. Ed, are you on this topic or
Yes.
another one?
Yes, I'm on this topic, and I would suggest this. We need to kind of put this back into the tri-party agencies' lap instead of us saying we should be asking them what are their responses relative to this GAO finding, not for us to, restate it, but how are they doing on this? And that might be one, I think really focuses it back to them, and two, they should be telling us what they're doing regarding this. Just change the perspective on this whole thing. Okay.
And Mia, what are your thoughts on this
Amber,
advice?
does that work?
Oh, I was just, let's let other people weigh in and then we'll circle back.
My piece is not on this at all. Josh, I have a question about the sounding board that you shared in the raw survey results. There were some, I think it was like the last 3 or 4 that were green. And I'm curious if you were just trying to show us that those were the new ones that came in and that for the final product, those will become white. All of them will be the same color.
Tom may verify.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Just
the
wanted
intent.
to make sure we were not highlighting specific results more than others by giving them a different color and that they'll all just look the same.
That was the goal, and I might not have been clear, but yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions or concerns or thoughts on this advice as presented? Can everyone live with the advice as presented? Okay. Well, that's promising. Sounds like everyone is really excited to see this pass. A couple of clarifications for my purposes when I prepare this. We never added who the letter is addressed to. Are we assuming all 3 tri-party agencies?
The work plan has this going to all 3.
Just want to confirm. And on the sounding board, the intent is to include the raw survey results rather than it just being referenced for our purposes.
Yeah, there's a summary of the survey results and then the raw tables, but they would all be the same color.
Mm-hmm. All right. And one item that I noticed, sorry if I'm making you sick while I keep swapping windows. On the list of HAB advice, I noticed we actually have something missing. This was developed as part of a previous CAE IM team. And the result of that IM team was actually another piece of advice, 318, related to public comment response. Would you like to also include that in this list?
Oh, sorry, which one are you referring to, Josh?
Advice 318 was actually, this list was developed by a previous CAE IM team, and that advice didn't exist at this point in time. So I wanted permission from the group to add that if you'd like it.
Yeah, that's the advice on asking the agencies to respond to public feedback periods, which they're not required to respond to comments on those. And I think it fits in here well.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
All right. So with that, I think that resolves my concerns. Final check for other concerns. So Tom has led us off saying that yes, the consensus advice. Would you like to let me to run down the list and confirm all the way down? So I will start with Michelle. Can you support this advice?
I can.
All right. Richard Bloom.
Yep. Yes, I can.
Kevin Danby.
I support it.
Perfect. Mia.
I consent.
Rob Parmalee.
I support it.
Chris Sutton.
Yes, but is Tom's statement going to be appended to it?
That was the condition on which Tom has agreed.
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Amber.
Yes.
Spencer. Did we lose him? Okay. We did. Matthew.
Yes.
McClure.
Sorry, I had to consent to recording. So I had a quick question.
Okay.
Since I am just an alternate for Yakima Nation and I haven't come to too many of these, what are the options on a vote? Is it consent or no or just abstain? I just feel like I jumped into the middle of something I don't know a lot about, and so I just don't want to get in the way of something if there has to be a consensus vote for this to move forward. So I just wanted to understand the ground rules a little quickly.
Yeah, you have, yeah, our goal is consensus, but any seat can abstain or consent with a conditional signing statement or whatever makes you feel most comfortable with it. So you all are at the moment included within the quorum for this.
Okay, I will vote yes, because I just from what I've heard and read, it seems fairly innocuous. But I will do better next time to coordinate with my primary to make sure I know what's up for voting. So thank you.
Welcome. Let's see, we covered Tom. We got Jesus. Do you support this advice?
Yes.
Ed
Yes, I support.
and Susan.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody I'm missing as the list transforms? All right. I think with that, we've passed another piece of advice. Well done and congratulations. Susan was clapping
Thank
for you
you.
silently. Okay. And with that, I think we are ready to move on to our subcommittee reports. Who would like to lead that off? I see a hand up from Chris.
Okay. There's two issues or two items that I want to bring up. And we talked about it at the ESC meeting, and I don't know where they stand, but we don't have a vice chair for the TWIST committee. And I think it would be good if we had an election to find a vice chair for the remainder of this fiscal year. To help me on things, but also I'm going to be out of town for a while and to fill in for me when I'm out of town, particularly in July. So, Susan, I'm not sure how to proceed with this. Ask for volunteers here and we just have an election, or what would be the best way to go about this?
Well, first step is to find out if there's a volunteer
Yeah.
or volunteers. If you
Is
only
there a
get one volunteer,
who would like to be vice chair? And the Twist Committee does have a piece of advice, which is my next topic, coming up. So you would be instrumental in helping formulate and develop this advice.
All right, so
The one other thing too is, if you're interested in being vice chair, this is my last year on the HAB. So after September, I'm not here anymore, and there's a chance that you could play a role in being the chair going forward, or not. But I just want to throw that out too. So, or vice chair going forward, so that we have some continuity and leadership of the Twist Committee.
So, since we're not hearing any volunteers here, we will continue to welcome nominations or volunteer notifications to our HAB email address at hab@pcifederal.com. If you're still in the habit of sending those to the old Estlin account, we will still receive those. So you mentioned the IM team. Were there any volunteers interested in participating in that?
Well, let me talk about the IM team.
Please do.
This is what the Twist Committee is in the work plan has been tasked to do. Provide policy level advice on outreach strategies, messaging, and opportunities to reinforce trust and transparency in the tank waste mission with the public, and build community support following the holistic agreement. This is kind of an interesting piece of advice for one major reason. And this advice can touch on something I don't think any other, since I've been on the HAB, any other advices involving public engagement have really addressed. The tank waste mission is going to last 54 years. And so I think a key element of this advice is, how do we engage the public, keep the public interest, inform the public, get public support for a 54-year period without the public saying, same old, we've heard this before. So 54 years is the duration, according to the life cycle plan, of the tank waste mission. And how do we engage the public on a mission as opposed to a broader cleanup level? And I think that's a key element of what this advice can address. And I don't think other advices have looked at that in that perspective, engagement for a 54-year period, keeping interest, building support. So it'll be an interesting piece of advice and going forward, and there's an opportunity for a lot of input from IM team members. So if you would like to be a member of this IM team, speak up now, let Josh know now, or email Josh, because we'd like to get moving on it as fast as possible.
Hey, Chris, you can count me in.
All right. And yeah, as a clarification, while we take volunteers, these are fully open to, IM teams are fully open to public participation in addition to board members. Who else might be interested in participating?
And we'd like to get some members from CO too, who are interested in public engagement. So there's some crossover with what CO is planning. And I think Rob and Amber touched base on this briefly earlier this year or late last year.
Am I already by default recruited to the IM team from CO?
I did have you on that list from some previous conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll get
Welcome.
on there.
I'd like to participate in the IM team as I have before.
All right, adding Kevin.
Who was that?
Yeah,
That was Kevin Danby.
that's Kevin. I'd like to participate in the IM team.
So far I have Chris Sutton, Rob Davis, Amber Waldriff, Mia Burke, Matt Hendrickson, and Kevin Danby. Does anybody else like to participate?
And if you'd like to, after thinking about it, email Josh or myself, and we'll include you in all the communications and welcome your input.
Yep. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss on the twist front?
No, nothing here.
Who would like to provide the next report? Richard beat Tom slightly. Go ahead, Richard.
Okay, well, the LIDS committee has 2 pieces of advice to develop, and so we need to schedule a LIDS meeting and probably some type of, one of them's probably just a general meeting. We had the co-meeting with Charm, which sort of led to it, but developing advice on how to leverage risk reduction successes. That's one piece of advice that's on the agenda. But the other one is going to need some sort of presentation relative to historical site tours, which we probably might schedule a meeting where we go to the park building and actually talk with them, type of that, over at the national park facility. So I'll be getting back with you, but so calendar wise, when do we have an opening where we can do this?
Megan, what do you think?
Can you guys hear me better this time?
Yes.
Okay, I think I moved too far from my internet router earlier and it made everything go wonky, but I just wanted to point out, so Richard, if you can get us, I love that idea. I have contacts, Rebecca or Becky over with National Parks. I did Leadership Tri-Cities with, and she is amazing. We could probably find some time to go over. B reactor is closed because they're doing repairs to the roof, so we won't be able to go there. But we could go to the visitor center and get some information from her. So if you can give me maybe some questions or some things that you guys are interested in on what you need to know from her so that we can come up with some type of a presentation or question and answer and give her a heads up, that really helps our presenters. So if you can get those questions to Josh and myself, then we can get something scheduled. You'll just want to figure out who's going to be on that IM team and who's going to be interested in going so we can start looking at schedules. We have a little bit of quiet time between now and April, so I can reach out and see if it's something we could do before our full board meeting. If you guys want to work on that piece of advice before full board, then you could potentially pass advice, but that's dependent on how aggressive you guys want to be, I guess.
Well, I guess my real question is, I haven't been to the visitor center recently. Is there a room where we could actually hold a subcommittee meeting?
I believe so. I can double check. I know it just depends too on, like I believe the visitor center is open to the public, so we want to make sure, I don't think they get a bunch of visitors every day, but we want to make sure there's not something else going on. And if they don't have that availability, it's something we could at least go do the visitor center videos and have discussions, and then we could pop back over to 2440 where we have the room and the space.
Okay.
Or she could come to us if it's something we could just bring to 2440 if it's not something you have to go out to the visitor center for. So I just need to know who and when.
I wanted to have this discussion with the current full board here so that I can get some enthusiasm into it. It sort of ties into the public involvement aspect, but also the details of how you get, how you advertise it, so to speak. So that's it.
Okay, and I'm going to just jump in. I'm not sure how current my information is, but it's not just they don't just have the B reactor tour, but they also have the other tours, the other site figures, the non-B reactor stuff.
Yeah, right.
So that maybe we tie into that tour.
Well, we can do that tour, but we're talking about how to advertise the tours. I've been on that tour a couple of times, and I know the HAB has, so we can discuss it as a follow-up of it. But anyway, I was just thinking of what to gather the information that is, how is it currently being advertised, so to speak.
All right. All right, so that sounds like it concludes the report for LIDS. Tom, you were eager to go next.
Yeah, so for cleanup and risk mitigation, we had a meeting last month with some amazing content that I highly recommend everyone consume. There was a presentation on the M100 milestone series, which is, Chris was saying the tank waste mission is the next 50 years. The cleanup is the next 100 years or so. So also a pretty long lead item. There was also a primer on what a CERCLA 5-year review is from EPA, which was another great presentation. So check those out. We did start an issue manager team as well, called the Stakeholder Considerations for Transuranic Waste Shipments. So if you liked the talks this morning and you want to join, we are meeting this afternoon to brainstorm. That's sort of a co-lead between CARM and LIDS. Everyone's invited and welcome. Talk to Josh and he'll send you a link to today's call at 1. And then, so assuming that all goes forward and we have advice to come forward, we'll have a sort of a focused committee call next month to pass the advice on to April. We are also looking for a vice chair for CARM. So you don't have to just go to tanks. You can come over to the other side as well, even though we're all one side. Okay, I think that's all I have.
All right. Remember, if you want to join the R9 team, it's at 1, email hab@pcifederal.com or enter a note in the chat. McClure, what's up?
I had a question, and it's maybe to Tom, but it's maybe not to Tom. Where will the proposed WIR be discussed? Which subcommittee is going to be handling that? Would that be CARM or is that the tank waste mission? Was that
Chris?
Chris, okay. All right.
What was the question again, McClure?
Just where will that proposed WIR be discussed that was just announced the other day? I was just trying to see which subcommittee will be handling those discussions. And Tom said it's you. You're in charge.
The WIR?
Yes.
Right now, it's not up for a briefing by DOE in either of the next 2 TWIST meetings. It wasn't included in the work plan for 2026, McClure. So what was included in the work plan for 2026, if Megan can get approval for, will be basically a DF law briefing, retrievals briefing, including tank closure, and one other one which eludes me right now. I don't have it in front of me. But if you look in the work plan for 2026, and look at the briefings that were scheduled for November and were canceled, those briefings will move forward. And then if you look at the briefing that was originally scheduled for February, those briefings will move forward too. So those briefings that were scheduled for November and February will move forward to the next two twist meetings. But I don't recall that the WIR was one of those. I don't believe it was.
Okay.
Which doesn't mean we, and Rob asked a couple questions about could we include something? And what I think we could do is we can submit a list of questions to DOE to be addressed in their briefing. And if you want to submit a question like that, let's say for one of the briefings, then I can submit that to Megan so that the DOE briefer, the person giving the briefing, is aware that this question could arise, and then they might get an answer to it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Chris.
So I think we concluded with CARM, went back to twist, and now Megan has a quick clarification question for LIDS.
Yeah, Richard, I just didn't know if you were trying to get something done before April, if you were trying to put an IM team together right now to work on that advice.
Oh, I am live. I was actually, what I was trying to do was to not necessarily pull the IM team together now, but more to quote, firm up something in April if we could, because I'm going to be out of the country in May. So that was part of my motivation to get something, queued up. And then we can form an IM team and, possibly, over the summer, finish up the advice.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we could look to see if Becky would be available to maybe brief the whole group in April. And then keep in mind your next full board won't be until August.
July.
But if you think that's enough.
Yeah.
July.
I think
Thanks, Josh.
I think that would be enough. I mean, with summer, the fourth quarter becomes very short.
Correct. I just wanted to make sure you weren't trying to get something done before April and that got skipped. So
no.
All right. Rob, are you trying to join an IM team?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying. So I want to talk a little bit about what we discussed, and that we were the probably last year, Megan, we came up with the work plan, and you were asking the tank committee to make some comments on the holistic agreement, or at least how to get the public involved and accepting of it. Well, one of the key aspects of the public involved, or one of the key aspects of that agreement, is the fact that we're going to strain the high-level waste tanks and create a stream not classified as high-level waste, but classified as low-level waste to be able to be grouted. And so, it's a subject that needs a lot. It needs a number of people on there that both are technical as well as interested in the big picture there. But as far as I was originally thinking, was that this would be something, maybe an IM team on that very subject of the process of what the WIR is going to do. And so, and make some suggestions and possibly some advice concerning the WIR. So it's going to involve a little bit more than just one meeting in order to do something like that. So, so I don't know what you want to do about that. It's kind of on the shelf because I'm not really a part of the committee, but that's where we were going to go with it. And to try to explain the public involvement needs to understand how they're, filtering out the waste and separating it. So anyway, if you're going to do anything on there, I'd love to participate. But it's going to take more than one meeting. We were kind of setting up for it when we went over and watched the amps and did the thing for the open house over at Advent, and we looked at the new amp system. I don't know what else to say other than that was kind of on our plans to do eventually.
Yeah, it sounds like some committee business to discuss in a different forum. For the time being, we're gonna have to put Amber on deck for the COE. What's the COE been up to, and what's the plan looking forward?
Okay, so well, we just got our advice passed, so thank you, everybody. We worked on that for the last quarter, and it got delayed due to the government shutdown. So we got that done, and I'm excited to get feedback, from the tri-parties about our suggestions, and hopefully we'll see some of that incorporated in outreach and engagement opportunities this year. So we are going to work with participate with the IM team and the tank waste efforts to kind of take it to the next level, which is, okay, now that we pass this advice that really gives some strong ideas around engagement for the long term to build trust with the communities that are interested in Hanford cleanup. How can we take that and work on all the important decisions coming up around tank waste cleanup? So we'll be working with Chris and the tank waste team. I have a vice chair, so that's good. The other committees all want a vice chair, but at our last meeting, we had a Jim from the Oregon Hanford Waste Board. He volunteered and was approved to be vice chair of the co-committee. And so I'm excited to have a, oh, can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, it sounds different, but we can hear you.
Oh, you know what? My earpiece went out. Let me put it on speaker. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Sorry, I think my earpiece went out. So I'm excited to have a vice chair. And since I will also be coming off the board like Chris at the end of this fiscal year, it'll be nice to have someone to turn over the work of the co-committee to. So I know we will be getting results from the TPA public involvement survey in the spring, and that will be on our agenda to look at those results. I'm trying to think of other things on the work plan, Josh, if you have that handy, but I know that the big thing to get through at the beginning of this year was that public involvement advice. Is there anything else I missed, Josh, that's coming up?
Well, so I think we were going to be recruiting for your next IM team as well.
And that's really, yeah, more around how to engage and increase HAB engagement and member engagement. And of course, not having packets being approved is tough, because we were looking forward to last year, onboarding new members and getting new members engaged and finding ways to keep that engagement high. Since we're just going to be focusing on engaging current members, and that'll be coming up. We're always trying to do that. We're always looking for ways to get more involvement. And so that will be on our agenda. And oh yeah, we just keep And then, of course, our tri-party agencies are always working with this committee to get feedback and advice on upcoming public involvement opportunities. And so we hope to continue to provide feedback on upcoming opportunities, especially the site-wide permit, right? I think that's one of the big things coming up that ecology has. And so we'll be giving feedback into engagement strategies on that. Looks like Tom had a hand.
Yeah, just a reminder, we have a HAB work group on the site-wide permit that is getting close to being ready to meet because the site-wide permit is going to be published. It has a date. So yeah, keep watch this space.
Great. And I think there's a couple other opportunities coming up for feedback. And so I think that the focus will be using all the practices and suggestions and working with the tri-parties this year to really integrate those into upcoming engagement opportunities so that they can be successful.
Thank you. Are there any initial volunteers for that IM team?
Are you speaking to the IM team on the site-wide permit, more the technical side or more the public engagement side?
Well, how about both? I was thinking of the public and HAB engagement, but since that one is the emptier one at the moment. But if anyone would like to join either of these IM teams, please let me know. Remember, it's fully open. Both are fully open to public participation. Yeah, we have Mia, and hopefully we'll have others soon. Are there any other subcommittee report matters to cover? All right, I think it sounds like everyone's satisfied with it. Moving on from there, we have board business. Susan, what do we have for board business?
Do we have any updates on action items?
The only one that I recall was related to new member orientation, which naturally fell off the map when we didn't have new members to orient.
Yeah, that one's gonna stay off the map for a little while. Till we hear when, that we've got new members. Any other HAB business? Chris, you got your hand up. You're muted, Chris. Chris, we can't hear you. Muted.
The EMSSAB meeting that's going to be held at Hanford?
Yes, the end of April.
Right. Are you going to be involved in putting out an agenda for that, or is that going to come from Kelly Snyder?
That comes from Kelly et al. We don't get involved in that, developing that agenda. Okay. Unless Megan may. I'm going to say Megan may and her staff, but we, the HAB, have not.
Well, coming from Hanford, a discussion on all the delay of membership packets and the concern then with how that filters down to HAB activities, I think would be a really good discussion to have, given the discussion today.
Chris, I can tell you that will be on the round robin slide.
Okay.
That we will be putting together. The meeting just got announced 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'll be putting the round robin slide together like we usually do. Me and I will have opportunity to talk. You can guarantee that's on the top of our list.
Good.
Yep. Nope. Totally feel your frustration.
So other HAB business. Megan, did you have anything to contribute?
Yeah, I guess just related to EMSSAB, that reservation list did go out. I don't know that it's going to be a situation where you'll be turned away if you don't RSVP, but depending on room sizes or however many people decide to show up, right? I would just say if you are planning to attend, please RSVP so that we can make sure we do have enough space for everyone to come in, because we need to make sure that at least those on that list have an area to sit and be seated and such. And as we get closer, we can give a little more detail. I will say the plan for it'll be set up similar to how our HAB meetings are. So we'll have the big U for our chairs and vice chairs. So Sue and Mia will be up there with Kelly. We will have tables for all of the site staff. And then all the other chairs without tables will be for members of the public, which would include HAB members. So I also want to make sure that if HAB members show up, since it's local, which is exciting, that we don't take staff members seating. So we could talk about those specifics as we're closer to, but does anyone else have any questions related to EMSSAB while we're on that topic?
One confirmation in chat is that they'll be held from the 28th to the 30th. That's the anticipated dates for the meeting. And the registration deadline is April 3rd. Yeah.
Megan, the meeting, if I'm inferring correctly, is going to be held at the Holiday Inn in Pasco. Is that right?
Correct. Yep. The Holiday Inn and Suite. So that's the hotel block for everyone. And it's also the meeting location.
Okay, great.
Chris,
And
is that,
actually, Mia, that's a good point. We might want to have you, as soon as you can, maybe start submitting your travel package so we can make sure you're all good to go for that one.
Okay, I can do that.
to confirm, Chris, is that a legacy hand?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Other HAB business to cover? Membership updates, perhaps?
You're just poking the bear there, Josh.
I was told there may be one, so I was providing a reminder.
The only update is that and I guess not update. So myself, Ryan and Roberto are working with Marianne. She's been working like crazy behind the scenes on all these new membership applications that have come in. We're meeting tomorrow to start discussing those applications so that we can do everything in our power to meet that membership deadline of February 20th, which is right around the corner. So that's our update on that.
All right. Sounds like we just about have everything covered. Typically we do a calendar review, but the fact of the matter is we're not totally sure what's coming up next. Today, Tom will be leading an IM team call on stakeholder considerations for transgenic waste shipments. Please remember to let us know if you want to join, if you don't already have that invitation. And potentially we'll have the other two IM teams that were discussed earlier meeting somewhere in this space between the end of February and early March. Our next chance for advice passing is in April. So should those IAM teams produce draft advice, we may be doing ad hoc committee meetings somewhere in late March as well. I hope that is as clear as mud. Any questions or thoughts there?
Then the next board meeting, full board meeting will be April 15th and 16th here in Richland, in person and available hybrid.
As far as I know. Mia.
Josh, just looking at the calendar, it looks like we'll probably need to move the ESC meeting on April 29th, maybe to the week ahead.
That is a good observation.
And And I'm also curious, so will we be holding board chair elections in July at the July board meeting before Susan terms off the board? Just something to be having on our radars.
Yeah, all the leadership elections will need to happen. It's just, I don't see it happening until you have a confirmed packet.
Well, I know we talked about
Because you
committee
don't know
leadership.
Yeah,
but
it's just who's going to roll off. I mean, you've got your 23 seats of the people that are on the board right now. That's the only eligible.
Okay, so we want to wait until October to elect chair of the board?
I'm going to say, as I said at the ESC when Tom brought it up, let's let it roll, the topic roll until the summertime, until like April, and we can get a feel for where the membership packets are.
Okay.
Because, you can only elect an approved member, and the list is not as large as it could be. How's that?
Yeah.
I would rather wait to have the full list.
Megan,
I
what do you
think what
think?
we could do, I was just, that's a really good point to raise, Mia. I think it is smart to wait for the full list, especially for subcommittees. For the board chair and vice chair, I think what we could do is that could just be one of the topics that we vote and approve at first thing in October. So that way we do have that full list and we could do nominations at that meeting with a full board again.
And my understanding is that we only need to elect a chair since my term is 2 years and I'm not rolling off the board. So
correct.
Is that, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, Tom, you don't know who's going to be approved. If you're in the packet, there is no guarantee you're approved until it's signed.
Yeah. And my point is if the packet isn't approved, then there isn't going to be a board, let alone a chair. So that's the challenge.
Yeah, understand. And that's why it's like, let's not stress over something until we get a few months down the line, get the packets submitted, and then maybe me and I can get a feel for what's going on in the end of April. Because it's just, there's no guarantees.
All right. So before we close out calendar matters, one request from me is to the IM team leaders to let me know when you would like to start your first IM team meetings to start developing advice for April, because our timeline for that is relatively rigid. So we want to get that on everyone's calendars and get rolling as soon as you're ready. Are there any other board business items before we close this out?
Josh, so
Yes.
you'll be engaging with all the people who volunteered for different IM teams to set up calls if needed in March. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so for your HAB engagement retention one, if we want to develop advice in time for April, we'll probably want to be holding a couple IM team meetings in the next 4 or 5 weeks to make sure we can get that passed through the COE before the end of March. So if you have initial timeline you'd like to propose or arrange we can poll people for, please let me know.
Okay, that sounds good. And then so is the plan April HAB meeting virtual or in person? Sorry if I missed that.
I think we're anticipating a traditional hybrid setup where you can do either.
Okay. And thank you.
Final thoughts?
As always, Josh, thank you for your help today.
You're quite welcome. Any closing statements, Susan?
I don't think so. Thank you, everybody, for being so flexible and getting the advice done and operating in this virtual world that we're in. I know it's been frustrating at times, but we got through it. So thank you very much for everybody. I hope to see everybody in April. Megan wants to say something.
I was just thinking, because April is right around the corner, they won't necessarily be approved right away, but if anyone who's needing to travel for April wants to start working on their travel packet and send it over to Julie like they have in the past, we'll work on the Federal Register notice as well, which we can't approve travel until that's approved, but at least you guys will have everything ready to go. Just start thinking about it at least.
Oh, good point. Let everybody get their paperwork out of the way, especially before spring break hits. So I hope everybody's having good weather. It's blue sky and sunshine here today. And I look forward to seeing everybody in April.
All right. Megan, are we adjourned?
We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See y'all
Thank
this
you.
afternoon, 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Bye-bye.